What's up, fellow Manhoa junkies? Manhoa 2 is back. Today we're inhaling part 2 of the Shepherd Wizard. This video is best served while you're eating, taking a dump, or pretending to work. Alright guys, buckle up and let's get to it. Bright morning sunlight warms the stone-paved streets of Orem as Tyran strides forward, carrying his expedition gear on his shoulders. While looking toward the distant mountains, Tyran plans his route. According to the continental map I got from the library, House Zahar's base, Emerald Desert, is east of Orem, he notes. I'll head to Zahar and find clues about my parents, he declares, gazing up at the clear sky with a deep sense of determination. But there's no need to rush. Tyran silently ponders as he rests beside a crackling campfire in the quiet, twilight-shrouded forest. Dappled sunlight filters through the dense forest canopy as Tyran walks past several skeletal remains. He silently ponders, if the clues were going to disappear, they would have already vanished 18 years ago. He continues to reason, and if they are still there, then arriving a little late won't make them disappear. Suddenly, a rustling sound in the nearby bushes causes Tyran to halt his steps. He mutters. He parts the thick green leaves to peer silently at the source of the noise. A reddish-brown horse with a flowing blonde mane and a leather saddle gallops frantically down the path. Peering through the dense foliage, Tyran observes the rearing horse standing defensively over a fallen traveler. A saddle, he silently ponders. He continues to watch, thinking the monster wasn't attacking him but protecting him. Tyran adjusts his heavy traveling pack and carefully evaluates the bizarre standoff unfolding in the forest. The two standing in front of the horse discuss among themselves. What a demon! What kind of pet monster is that strong? Tyran silently ponders, or is the monster actually the one being attacked? Tyran immediately focuses his attention on the strange appearance of these two. While the two purple-skinned adversaries bicker, Tyran recognizes their distinct features from his library research. A slender female dark elf with lilac skin and short white hair stands beside her companion. Try to create an opening somehow, the female dark elf commands her companion. Easy for you to say, her partner retorts. Tyran silently ponders dark elves. Dark purple magic crackles around the female dark elf's hands, beginning to saturate the quiet air. From the bubbling black slime on the forest floor, two grotesque undead beasts slowly emerge. The red horse whinnies in terror as the towering summons loom over the desperate beast. Tyran silently ponders, so this is the necromancy of the dark elves I read about in that book. Tyran hesitates behind the leafy bushes and weighs the moral consequences of interfering in this conflict. Should I help? But he silently ponders. He looks at the unconscious traveler, thinking the man lying over there may have been the one who attacked the dark elves first. With a sudden jolt of pure revulsion, Tyran watches the gruesome scene unfold from his hiding spot. A muscular purple-skinned male dark elf with long white hair and glowing yellow eyes greedily gnaws on a severed human arm. Whose hand is that? Share some with me, the female dark elf demands. Go eat your own share, her partner grunts coldly. You must have already devoured some yourself. Disgust washes over Tyran as he witnesses the horrific feast taking place just a few yards away. He silently ponders, so they were cannibals. To conceal his presence, Tyran immediately channels his mana and activates a specialized magic spell. Stealth, he whispers. The dark elves continue their grotesque meal, completely unaware of the invisible threat lurking in the brush. The ones we killed were all men, so the meat is way too hairy, the female dark elf complains, chewing loudly. A blinding beam of blue magical energy suddenly tears through the air, obliterating the male dark elf's head. Dark purple blood splatters across the female dark elf's face, freezing her in absolute bewilderment. Huh, she mutters. The headless corpse of her companion collapses heavily into the bubbling black slime on the forest floor. With her companion's blood splattered across her face, the female dark elf stares with wide, horrified eyes. Panicking at the sudden assassination, she desperately commands her summoned beasts to shield her from the unseen attacker. Gather up, she screams. Another magically charged stone whistles through the dense forest air, targeting her remaining undead minions. The attack strikes the horned beast squarely in the head, but unfortunately it hits the creature's goat-like horns and bounces off harmlessly. Spinning around in sheer desperation, she searches the empty clearing for any sign of her hidden opponent. Who was that? Come out, she shrieks. Giant wooden thorns erupt violently from the forest floor, tearing through the foliage to create a defensive barrier. The massive wooden constructs thrash wildly, attempting to flush out the invisible sniper hiding within the trees. Gritting her teeth, she finally realizes the nature of the magic being used against her. Stealth, she mutters in disbelief. Summoning her golden-furred, wolf-like beast, the female dark elf commands her pet to hunt down the enemy. "Let's see where you can hide after this," she screams. A swirling vortex of golden wind erupts from the beast and sweeps across the dusty forest path. As the dust clears, Tyran reveals a confident grin as his stealth magic begins to fade. The female dark elf gasps in shock. Stepping out from the shadows, Tyran is spotted by his purple-skinned opponent. "Found you, demon," she screams. Pointing furiously, the female dark elf orders her brutal beasts to tear the intruder apart. "Kill him," she commands. Tyran calmly raises his right hand and focuses his internal energy to cast a counterattack. A blazing torrent of orange fire erupts from Tyran's palm, illuminating the dark forest canopy. The explosive wall of fire surges forward and completely consumes the charging undead monsters in its path. The forest clearing fills with thick, acrid smoke and the crackle of burning embers. While the flames consume one undead beast, the remaining horned monster leaps wildly through the smoke. Tyran leaps backward to avoid the charging beast, as dust explodes violently beneath its heavy hooves. Sliding across the damp grass, he quickly stabilizes his posture and assesses the relentless speed of his enemies. "They're fast," he mutters. He silently ponders, "Good thing I took one of them out beforehand." A sudden rustling sound from the side catches his attention and forces him to turn his head. "Urgh," he grunts. The golden-furred beast lunges from the underbrush, sinking its sharp fangs deep into his left leg. Reacting instantly to the pain, Tyran delivers a powerful kick that forces the golden beast to release him. He quickly shifts his focus back to the front, as a massive shadow looms over his position. The towering horned undead beast roars fiercely as it charges close, preparing to crush Tyran. With a deafening roar, the horned undead beast rams into Tyran with immense force, sending him flying backward. "Gah!" he cries out in pain. A sharp spasm of pain shoots through Tyran's body as he coughs up a mouthful of blood from the crushing impact. "Gah!" Laughing maniacally at his defeat, the female dark elf points a mocking finger at him. "Serves you right. How dare you kill my Kel?" she shrieks. Her expression then twists into pure cruelty as she sneers, "I'll make you beg for death." Out of the shadows, the red horse suddenly charges forward, rearing back to deliver a thunderous kick straight at the female dark elf. Tilly stomps down relentlessly, completely shattering the female dark elf's focus and her control over the summoned beasts. "Jigaw!" she gasps in panic. Desperate, she shrieks, "Help me, quickly." Tilly stomps down relentlessly, completely shattering the dark elf's focus and her control over the summoned beasts. "Jiga!" she gasps in panic. "Help me, quickly." Instantly, the three summoned beasts lunged at the red horse, biting and tearing at her. As some rammed and others bit, Tilly is quickly overwhelmed and forced into a corner. Kel bites viciously at Tilly's neck while the horned beast rams her side, sending the brave horse crashing to the ground. Crawling through the dirt, the battered dark elf clutches the ground with trembling hands. What humiliation! She growls, her eyes burning with hatred. "I'll kill you." A brilliant pillar of azure light suddenly pierces down from the heavens, engulfing the clearing in a blinding flash. The intense magical beam pierces clean through her chest, splattering dark purple blood across the surrounding trees. The dark summoning smoke slowly evaporates into the quiet air, leaving Tilly standing shakily on her hooves. The dark summoning smoke slowly evaporates into the quiet air, leaving Tilly standing shakily on her hooves. Tyran exhales a long, weary breath, wiping the fresh blood from his lips after the grueling battle. "Who?" Tilly gently nudges him as he struggles to catch his breath on the damp ground. "That battle really took everything out of me." Tyran pants heavily, adding huff. Huff. A cool forest breeze rustles the leaves as the twilight fades. Tilly lets out a soft whinny, stepping closer to Tyran. Tyran reaches up to gently stroke her muzzle with a warm, grateful smile. All right, he whispers. "Thank you, girl." Nearby on the grass, the young man who had fainted earlier slowly opens his eyes, groaning weakly as he regains consciousness. Nearby on the grass, Aziz slowly opens his eyes, groaning weakly as consciousness returns. Startled by the crackling of the campfire, he bolts upright and scrambles backward in wary alarm. Whoa! Startled by the crackling fire, Aziz bolts upright and scrambles backward in alarm. Whoa! Tyran looks directly at the young man, speaking in a calm, reassuring tone. "You're awake." He blinks in utter confusion before asking, "Who are you?" Tyran calmly replies, I saw you being attacked by dark elves, so I stepped in to help." Embracing his loyal horse's leg, the young man is filled with joy to find his magical beast still alive. He calls out its name, Tilly. Embracing his loyal horse's leg, Aziz seeks comfort as the crackling campfire illuminates the dark woods. "Tilly," Turan smiles gently at the touching reunion. "That is a good horse." Not only did it understand that it had to protect its master, but even that it needed to move to a safer place. Placing a hand over his chest, Aziz bows respectfully toward his savior. "Thank you for saving me. I am Aziz of House Borg." Turan nods in return. "I'm Turan." Leaning slightly forward, Turan inquires about the circumstances of the ambush. "May I ask if there was any particular reason you came into conflict with the Dark Elves?" Aziz shakes his head slowly, staring down at the dancing flames with a heavy heart. "A reason? No, there wasn't. I was simply on a pilgrimage with my retainers when they suddenly ambushed us without provocation." Tears stream down his cheeks as the painful memory of his fallen comrades overwhelms him. "I had heard that these other races were savage, but I never imagined they would be this bad." The loyal horse stands quietly nearby as the soft sound of weeping echoes through the dark forest. Sob, 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 hic. Covering his face with a trembling hand, Aziz struggles to regain control of his emotions. "My apologies. The people I lost this time were very precious to me." Golden embers drift into the cool night air as the quiet forest whispers around them. Turan asks, "Were they your family?" Aziz replies, "They were the knights and servants who came on this pilgrimage with me. They practically raised me since I was little." The loyal horse stands quietly in the shadows as Turan continues his inquiry. "Do you know how many dark elves attacked you?" "I killed 2 of them," Aziz answers. Turan nods, "Then that should be all of them." The loyal horse stands quietly in the shadows as Turan continues his inquiry. "Do you happen to know how many dark elves attacked you?" Aziz answers, "I killed 2 of them." Turan nods, "That should be all of them." Closing his eyes to concentrate, Turan prepares to cast a detection spell to scan the area. "Search." Opening his eyes, Turan confirms the safety of their surroundings. Turan thinks, there are definitely no more dark elves nearby. Aziz shifts his posture and addresses his savior with a curious question. "Turan, do you happen to have urgent business right now?" Turan replies, "I'm also in the middle of a pilgrimage myself." Aziz stares in wonder at the incredibly capable wizard sitting across from him. "To think you're on a pilgrimage despite having that much power. Could you be the child of some great house? But then why are you alone?" Turan replies, "That's difficult for me to explain." Sitting by the campfire, Turan downplays his combat prowess. "And I'm not that strong. I only managed to ambush one and take him down, then I barely fought off the other with the help of that red horse." Suddenly their massive elemental auras flare up, illuminating the dark forest with blinding light. Aziz gasps. Turan silently evaluates the sheer volume of magical energy radiating from Aziz. Turan thinks, unexpectedly, his amount of mana is incredible. If I hadn't absorbed the Dark Elf's mana, I would have had even less than him. Continuing his silent analysis, Aziz realizes Turan possesses an exceptionally powerful magical heritage. Turan silently ponders, honestly, his raw mana alone isn't a la Letter 183, where he should be overwhelmed by 2 necromancers. Which means, conversely, that he must be noble-born from a powerful bloodline. And if he's on a pilgrimage, then he probably hasn't even reached his growth limit yet. Why would someone like that be traveling alone? Aziz breaks the silence, extending a formal invitation to Turan across the embers. "If you do not have a fixed destination, would it be all right for me to invite you to House Borg? I will repay you for saving my life and escorting me safely back to my house." Turan questions, "When you say repay, you mean?" With a proud grin, Aziz clenches his fist and explains his family's prestigious lineage. "We of Borg are enchanters, vassals of Arabian, the great house to the north, and a bloodline that has crafted magic tools for generations." Cool night wind rustles the leaves as the dying campfire casts long, flickering shadows. Aziz promises, "Turan, I will make the finest magic tool worthy of you." Sunlight filters through the towering forest canopy, casting soft shadows over a quiet clearing where Turan stands beside Aziz. Looking down at the stone grave, Aziz sighs deeply under the quiet canopy. "It looks like it's finally coming to an end," he murmurs. "I'd like to send everyone back to their hometowns if I could, but I'm afraid that'll be difficult." Turan turns his head slightly to meet his companion's gaze. "Thank you, Tyran," Aziz says with a soft, grateful smile. "For what?" Tyran asks, looking confused. Aziz replies, "You didn't mock me." Rubbing the back of his neck, Aziz feels a wave of embarrassment wash over him. "I'm a noble, and yet I cried at the sacrifices of my subordinates," he admits. "That was pathetic of me." Tyran questions, "Why would you think that's pathetic?" Aziz answers, "Because that's what my father taught me." Looking up at the sky, Aziz recalls the stern lessons of his childhood. "Those who fall in a righteous battle shall dwell in the heavenly palace with the gods," he says. "To grieve for them would be weak. A true noble must move forward, standing upon that sacrifice." Standing before the crude stone monument, Aziz clenches his fists tightly. "But if not grieving over a family member's death is strength," he mutters, "then I don't think I could ever become truly strong." Tyran offers a warm, understanding smile to comfort his grieving companion. "That isn't a sign of weakness, it's kindness," he says gently. Tyran gestures toward the open forest path ahead while the horse stands quietly nearby. "Anyway, since we're going to be traveling together anyway, would it be all right if we spoke more comfortably with each other going forward?" he suggests. "The age difference between us isn't that great either." Aziz nods, "Oh, I agree." Extending his hand with genuine warmth, Aziz beams happily at his new companion. "I look forward to working with you, friend," he exclaims. In the quiet stillness, Tyran stares intently at the outstretched hand before him, hesitating for a brief moment. "A friend, huh?" he silently ponders. He firmly grasps the offered hand to seal their new partnership in the quiet woods. "I look forward to that as well," he says. Aziz walks over to a large, ornate wooden chest resting on the grass. "Shall we rest before continuing?" he asks. Tyran bends down to inspect the mysterious container with deep curiosity. "What's this?" he asks. Upon lifting the lid, Aziz reveals a bounty of fresh bread, apples, and meat. "A cold storage chest," he explains. "I've kept several things in it from the last time we were in the city." Tyran peers inside, amazed by the preservation magic at work. "Is the inside always cold?" he asks. Aziz nods, "That's right. Thanks to it, most foods can be stored for about a week without issue. Cold food can be reheated." Aziz showcases his array of enchanted items to demonstrate their incredible utility. "And if you press this button, water comes out," he says. This magic tool creates shelter from gathered wood, and it sounds an alarm when someone approaches nearby. Aziz proudly tugs at his travel tunic to show off its special enchantment. "Also, what I'm wearing is a magic tool with a self-cleaning function." Tyran looks at his companion with a mixture of surprise and admiration. "Magic tools aren't common items, though." He silently ponders. "That's impressive," he says aloud. Tyran chuckles softly, amused by his companion's humble estimation of value. "Just that one set of clothing alone would be worth saving your life already," he jokes. Aziz laughs heartily. "My life is worth way more than this. When I return to the Marin house, I promise to reward you with far better things." With a confident grin, Aziz shows a fierce determination to fulfill his promise. "If they won't allow it, I'll make them myself," he declares. While the campfire crackles softly, Aziz leans forward with an intense look of pride. "And there's something far greater than these things?" Tyran asks, tilting his head in silent confusion. As the cool night wind rustles the leaves, Aziz raises his hand to list his observations. "During the time we've traveled together, I've seen so many types of your magic that I've lost count," he says. "From animal control to freezing, levitation, liquid manipulation, enhancement, luminescence, restraint, instant death, terrain transformation, lightning strikes." Aziz studies Tyran's calm expression with a curious gaze, waiting for an answer. "Did you spend your whole life just practicing magic?" he asks. "Or is it that you have some kind of bloodline ability that lets you master any magic you want?" Feeling a bit awkward under the intense scrutiny, Tyran turns his face away slightly, a bead of sweat forming on his forehead. "I can just do it naturally, though," he silently ponders. Aziz quickly waves his hands in a frantic, apologetic gesture to break the sudden tension. Tyran reminds him, "I thought we agreed not to pry into which family I come from." "Actually, I was just kidding," Aziz replies with a nervous laugh. "There's no way such a bloodline ability even exists." Aziz packs their gear and brings up another question that has been on his mind. "Also, how old are you?" he asks. "Your face doesn't look older than 30, but surely you haven't lived 80 years or so." Aziz freezes in place with a completely stunned expression upon hearing the quiet response. Tyran says, "I have about a month left until my birthday. I turn 18 this year." Aziz gasps. Staring back at his companion, Tyran blinks in disbelief at the sudden and unexpected revelation. "I'm turning 43 this year," Aziz reveals. Tyran gasps. Aziz adds, though honestly, a 25-year difference isn't really important to us. Aziz crosses his arms confidently and continues to speak as they prepare to resume their journey. "I should have known when you had the magic power to take down 2 wraith sorcerers," he says. "I wasn't expecting there to be 2 geniuses like you in the world." "2?" Tyran asks. Aziz taps his chin with a thoughtful expression, recalling a highly talented relative. "Yeah, though not quite to your Levi letter 183. Actually, maybe you're similar," he says, "but the other one does have an incredible bloodline. Anyway, I know another genius around your age. She's my cousin." Tyran feels intrigued by the mention of another genius and inquires about her potential help. "Could I ask that person to make magic tools for me?" he asks. "No," Aziz replies, "she's from the Marin house." A powerful golden aura flares around the mysterious silhouette of a formidable female mages. "The Marin house?" Tyran asks. Aziz replies, "That's right." The glowing energy intensifies as Aziz describes the legendary status of his talented cousin. "A princess of Arabian," Aziz says, adding, "Perhaps she'll even become the head of a great house someday." Tyran and Aziz walk side by side, continuing their journey along the quiet forest path. As they travel deeper into the woods, Aziz explains the complex politics of great families. Unlike ordinary wizard houses, the heads of great houses don't easily pass their positions to their own children, he says, because in a great house, there are easily dozens of relatives in the same generation alone, Aziz explains. He adds, and naturally at least one of them is bound to be stronger than the head's own child. Aziz says, yet among the head's children, Mesa was born with the greatest talent. Aziz walks along the path, continuing to praise his cousin's incredible achievements. After awakening her magic power, Mesa mastered all manner of combat magic in just 10 years, he says. He continues, as a result, she received the absolute support of her house. And now, at just 21, she is almost on the same Levi letter 183 as the core members of the family. Tyran listens intently to the story and asks a highly specific, perceptive question. With that much magic power at that age, did the house perhaps perform a funeral? Aziz offers a warm smile and confirms Tyran's sharp deduction about their family's traditions. That's right, Aziz replies. When our eldest granduncle passed, his magic power was devoured by her. Of course, we received portions as well. Dappled morning sunlight filters through the quiet forest as Tyran silently ponders the northern nobility. It's clear there's a good reason the great houses maintain their supremacy, he thinks. Aziz points toward the horizon, breaking the silence as they emerge from the dense woods. It seems we're almost there, he says. Tyran replies. A sudden gust of wind sweeps across the path, rustling Tyran's long white hair. Aziz gestures toward the vast golden fields that stretch out endlessly beneath the bright sun. This is the Dacian Plains, he explains. He continues to guide his companion forward through the whispering tall grass of the plains. It's the central territory of Arabian, he adds. A magnificent white stone castle stands proudly under the clear sky, surrounded by meticulously manicured gardens. Territory of House Burg, Zavillan. Aziz's mother rushes down the grand hallway while Ina follows closely behind her with a worried expression. "Aziz, my child, what on earth is happening here?" she cries out. Aziz immediately runs forward and tightly embraces her with tears of relief in his eyes. "Mom," he shouts. Tyran watches the emotional reunion with a look of utter bewilderment while Aziz continues to sob loudly. He silently ponders. He's 43. Aziz's father steps forward, a well-dressed man with a thick beard, and sternly scolds his son for showing such weakness in front of others. "Aziz, mind your dignity," he says in a low voice. "You should at least address her as mother." Tyran mutters under his breath, "I don't think the way he addresses her is the main issue here." I apologize," Aziz stammers. Aziz quickly composes himself and introduces Tyran to them with a polite and proud gesture. "This is Tyran," Aziz says, "a new friend from the south. When I was in grave danger, he risked his life to save me. Without him, I wouldn't have made it back here alive." Aziz's mother places a comforting hand on Aziz's shoulder and inquires about the perilous journey. "This pilgrimage route wasn't supposed to be that dangerous." "What happened?" she asks. "We were attacked by dark elf wraith sorcerers," Aziz replies. Fury instantly replaces her concern as she shouts in anger at the mention of their attackers. "Dark elves?" Aziz's mother screams. Those filthy wretches dared to target my child. I'll take an army and tear them to shreds, she vows. Assiz's father calmly places a hand near her to remind her of her position and dignity. Compose yourself, househead, Assiz's father says quietly. People are watching. Turning his attention toward Tiran, Assiz's father inquires about Tiran's family background with a serious gaze. So may I ask which house you belong to? He asks. Tiran maintains a calm expression and politely declines to reveal his mysterious origins to them. I'm afraid I cannot say, Tiran replies. You can't? Assiz's father questions. He speaks the truth about his mysterious past without showing any shame or hesitation before them. To be honest, I think it would be more accurate to say I don't know, Tiran explains. I was born of a commoner mother, and I don't know who my father is. Assiz turns to his companion in surprise while Tiran merely shrugs off the sudden outburst. What? You never told me about that? Assiz gasps. It's not something worth boasting about, Tiran replies calmly. Assiz's mother nods slowly and decides to acknowledge Tiran's heroic deeds despite his commoner bloodline. So that's the situation. Very well, Tiran of the unknown house, she says. Since you saved my child, I, the head of Burg, shall see that you are properly rewarded. Assiz protests immediately when Assiz's mother suggests hosting Tiran at a local inn instead. It's difficult to offer you a room here, Assiz's mother notes, but I will arrange for you to stay at the finest inn in the city. What are you saying, Mom? I mean, Mother? Assiz interrupts. We should at least host him at home, shouldn't we? Standing in the middle of the grand hall, Assiz's mother calmly but firmly explains the situation to her son. That would normally be fine, but we are currently hosting an extremely important guest, she says. She adds, regardless of the circumstances, bringing a stranger of unknown origin into our private residence is out of the question. I hope you understand. Just then Mesa speaks up. You don't need to worry about me, Aunt. Hearing the unexpected voice, Assiz's father and mother turn their heads in surprise. Mesa continues, surely someone who risked his life to save Brother Assiz wouldn't suddenly try to assassinate me. A slender silhouette emerges from the doorway, casting a long shadow across the polished marble floor. Mesa steps fully into the warm light, scanning the room in silence with a sharp, cold gaze. She is a young woman barely in her 20s, dressed entirely in black from head to toe, with even her hands carefully covered in black gloves. She has long, glossy black hair and a pair of deeply sorrowful eyes. Stepping forward with a shocked expression, Assiz looks directly at his cousin. Mesa, he exclaims in utter bewilderment. What are you doing here all of a sudden? Observing the newcomer silently, Tiran recalls the stories he had heard about her incredible magical talent. This woman is the Princess of Arabian. He silently ponders. He notices her pale complexion and senses the lingering traces of dark magical energy surrounding her. Though describing her current state as a walking corpse would be more accurate, he silently ponders. Assiz's mother speaks up. She barely escaped with her life after an assassination attempt by Zahar's henchmen, which is why she came here to seek refuge. The sudden mention of the name Zahar catches Tiran off guard, leaving him slightly unsettled. He clenches his fists tightly, deeply troubled by the grave situation. An assassination attempt at the Mern house? Assiz stammers with how fortified that place is. See could it be? She turns her back to everyone and begins walking slowly down the red-carpeted corridor. Yes, there is definitely an insider, Mesa replies coldly. The Mern house does not just have one or two people harboring treachery, she adds. As she departs, the remaining family members stand frozen in silence, processing her shocking words. Anyway, I am tired, so I will retire first, Mesa says. Have a good evening, everyone, she adds. Assiz's mother turns to her maid and instructs Ina. Show Tiran to the second-best guest room in the house. Outside the grand castle, a cool night breeze sweeps across the plains under a starry sky. The next morning, as the warm morning sun filters through the curtains, Tiran slowly opens his eyes and wakes up in bed. A beautifully crafted magic lantern hangs on the wall, emitting a soft and steady golden glow. Tiran steps out of his room and slowly walks down the quiet, sunlit castle corridor. Hearing his name, Tiran stops in his tracks and turns his head toward the sound. Tiran, Assiz calls out. He approaches with a bright smile, looking pleased to see his companion awake so early. You're up early as usual. Assiz says, waving warmly, what are you doing alone in the hallway? Tiran gestures toward the decorative light fixture, prompting his companion to explain its origin. I find that interesting, Tiran says, pointing at the wall. Assiz replies that, oh, the magic lantern, I make them every now and then. Do you want one? There are plenty of them in storage, Aziz offers with a friendly grin. Tiran replies, I am not that interested. A sudden, violent crackle of golden lightning tears through the sky, illuminating the quiet castle hallway. Golden energy surges violently outside the window, throwing long, flickering shadows across the stone walls. The brilliant flash of light suddenly reflects in Tiran's eyes as he pauses in the corridor. Startled by the sudden roar of thunder, Tiran looks up toward the ceiling with a puzzled expression. He gasps. Aziz steps up from behind and peers out the window to find the source of the magic. It seems Mesa is practicing magic, Aziz notes with a warm smile. She is always so diligent, he adds. The two companions stand side by side and watch the golden storm rage in the distance. Was that Arabian bloodline magic? Tiran asks. Yeah, Aziz replies, it's storm bloodline. Massive bolts of lightning strike the courtyard below, shaking the very foundations of the castle. I've never hated my own bloodline. Aziz confesses, but I'll admit I'm a little envious of her. It's like she's becoming a literal god. Tiran narrows his eyes as he watches the immense display of raw, destructive elemental power. I'm curious, he silently ponders. I wonder how strong the next Arabian leader is. Aziz turns to his companion with a playful grin, suggesting an impromptu visit to the training courtyard. Do you want to go down and take a look? He asks. Tiran admits, I am quite curious myself, but I think it is best for a suspicious outsider like me not to approach so carelessly, he adds. Aziz dismisses the concern with a wave of his hand and reassures Tiran. What does it matter? Aziz chuckles, you're not an assassin. I can vouch for you. Tiran looks at him, realizing there is an underlying motive behind this sudden invitation. To be honest, I'm curious myself, Aziz confesses. I want to know who is truly stronger between you and Mesa. Tiran remarks, I think that's the real reason you brought me here. As they walk toward the training courtyard, Aziz grins mischievously, admitting his true intentions. To tell you the truth, Aziz says, there's a grudge I've been holding onto for a few years now. I just want to see Mesa's defeated face for once, just to get back at her, Aziz whispers. A cool morning breeze sweeps across the vast stone courtyard, carrying the scent of ozone from the recently cleared storm. Mesa stands alone in the center of the terrace, her long dark hair swaying in the wind. Hearing the familiar voice, Mesa stops her training and slowly turns around. Hey Mesa, Aziz calls out loudly. Mesa looks at the two approaching and scrutinizes Tiran with a sharp, curious gaze. Aziz, and who is the person beside you? She asks. I am Tiran, my lady, Tiran introduces himself politely. Mesa nods slightly as she recalls the conversation from last night in the Grand Hall. Oh, that's right. Tiran, that was your name, she says. She then asks, so what brings you two here so suddenly? Aziz scratches his head, offering a casual explanation for their sudden appearance. Well, we saw you practicing magic, so we thought we'd come down and join in the fun, he says. Mesa counters, didn't we used to do that in the past? Mesa flashes a teasing smile as she brings up an embarrassing childhood memory to mock her cousin. Oh, I remember now, she says. You ran away crying after I only took 2 tries to learn what took you an entire week to figure out. Hey, Aziz quickly protests. Tiran quickly covers his mouth to hide a chuckle while Aziz glares at him in annoyance. My apologies, Tiran mutters. Aziz sighs deeply and tries to regain his composure before addressing his cousin once again. Are you mocking me too? He groans. Anyway, among the people I've met, Tiran also has magic talent that's second to none. Aziz gestures between the two and proposes an exciting way to test their skills. How about you two have a duel? He suggests. Mesa tilts her head slightly upon hearing Aziz's sudden and unexpected proposal. A duel? She asks. While Tiran remains completely silent, Mesa suddenly unleashes a terrifying surge of elemental magic from deep within her body. Stunned by the sudden shift in the atmosphere, Tiran looks up at the rapidly darkening sky. Brilliant arcs of golden electricity wrap around Mesa as she stands enveloped in a violently surging storm of mana. With her eyes glowing a brilliant, piercing blue, Mesa releases an overwhelming pressure that weighs heavily on the surrounding space. The terrifying power of the magical storm forces Tiran to grit his teeth, struggling to withstand the suffocating aura. His eye widens in pure disbelief as he experiences the true, terrifying scale of her bloodline magic. Just as quickly as it appeared, the violent golden storm dissipates, leaving behind a clear blue sky. Silence once again blankets the courtyard, while the three of them stand motionless under the sunlight. Sweat drops from Tyran's chin as he pants heavily, completely exhausted by the brief display of power. He struggles to catch his breath and tries to stabilize his trembling body after facing her intense aura. Mesa stares calmly at him, her voice quiet yet carrying an undeniable weight in the silent courtyard. Gazing intently at him, she says, "I hate to say this, but I don't think you're a match for me," Mesa declares. A cool morning breeze sweeps across the terrace as Tyran stares forward, his heart pounding violently. Bright morning sunlight warms the stone courtyard of Zavillan Castle as Aziz enthusiastically gestures toward Tyran. "If we're just talking about Monner alone," Aziz says, "I agree he's not your match." He adds, "What's really amazing about this guy is his talent for learning magic." Placing a hand on Tyran's shoulder, Aziz proudly boasts about his companion's extraordinary potential to Mesa. "Tyran is a magic genius unlike anyone I've seen in my life," Aziz declares. "Mesa, not even you would be as talented as he is," he adds. Mesa looks directly at Tyran with a calm yet challenging expression in the quiet courtyard. Since he's bragging about how great you are, Mesa says, "Let's see what you've got." Tyran stands tall and confidently proposes a simple test of S-1EDDQ to settle the debate. "How about we each show a magic the other doesn't know?" Tyran suggests, "and whoever succeeds first wins." Aziz winks playfully and turns toward Mesa to see if she will accept the challenge. "That sounds like a good method," Aziz says. "Mesa, what do you think?" Mesa agrees to the terms and suggests a fair competition by excluding their unique bloodline abilities. "Fine," Mesa replies. "From what I heard, Tyran doesn't even know what his own bloodline magic is. It wouldn't be fair if I use my unique magic. Let's leave that out, shall we?" Mesa steps forward and lightly taps her foot against the stone floor to initiate her spell. "I'll go first," Mesa says. Tyran and Aziz look on in surprise as a tiny green sprout suddenly emerges from a crack in the solid stone beneath their feet. Aziz mutters. The small sprout rapidly transforms into massive, glowing golden vines that erupt violently from the pavement. The surging plants quickly coil around Aziz and lift him high into the air without warning. "Whoa, hold on, Mesa," Aziz screams. Dangling helplessly above the ground, Aziz flails his limbs as the vines hold him securely aloft. Aziz yells. Mesa gazes calmly at Tyran and challenges him to replicate her intricate plant manipulation spell. "Plant creation and manipulation magic," Mesa asks. "Can you do it?" Aziz groans miserably while suspended in midair, but Mesa merely watches the spectacle with cold amusement. "Ah, let go of me, Tilda. I'm getting dizzy." Aziz whines. "Stay there for a sec," Mesa replies. "This is fun." Tyran looks up at the dangling vines and carefully analyzes the fundamental principles of her magic. Tyran kneels down and gently presses his palm against the cold stone surface of the courtyard. Tyran concentrates his mana, silently reflecting on the elemental laws that govern the manifestation of magic. He silently ponders, magic that ignites fire only manifests the phenomenon of burning. He continues to analyze, magic that creates water merely draws in invisible moisture from the air. Tyran whispers a command as his blue mana flows deep into the soil beneath the stones. "Grow." He silently ponders, withering vines are the same. It's magic that rapidly accelerates seeds buried in the ground. He continues to reason, in other words, it's not creation. A buried seed absorbs his magical energy and begins to sprout rapidly with a vibrant blue glow. Tyran silently ponders, but growth. Massive blue vines erupt violently from the ground, swirling around Tyran's arm as he unleashes his magic. Mesa stares in complete disbelief, while Aziz, hanging upside down, gasps at the sudden display of power. As the vibrant blue vines slowly recede into the stone pavement, Mesa observes the lingering magical residue. "From the way you said grow, it seems you figured out the magic's nature right away," Mesa remarks, looking back at him. "Have you seen it before?" she asks. "I have not," Tyran replies calmly. With a sudden rustle, the golden vines release their grip and drop Aziz onto the hard floor. I guess even Aziz could be right sometimes," Mesa murmurs. Aziz groans, "Gah." Stepping closer, Mesa focuses her attention entirely on Tyran to see how he will respond next. "Then it's your turn to cast a spell," she says. "Let's see what you can do." Tyran brings his hand to his chin, carefully contemplating his limited options for the duel. Using Zahar bloodline magic right now would be practically suicide, he thinks to himself. Spotting a sudden movement in the nearby garden, Tyran extends his hand toward the thick green foliage. A large brown rat suddenly darts out from the underbrush and scurries onto the stone pavement. Mesa crosses her arms and stares down at the small rodent with a highly skeptical look. "Animal manipulation. Is that all?" she asks, tilting her head. Tyran kneels down to gently scoop the wild creature into his palm without showing any hesitation. "Of course not," Tyran replies with a calm smile. "This creature is just the material." Blue magical energy suddenly flares from Tyran's hand, completely enveloping the struggling rodent in a cold mist. The rat rapidly shrivels and decays as its vital essence is forcefully drained by his spell. Mesa holds her breath in astonishment as she witnesses a strange magic she has never seen before. She lets out a gasp of utter disbelief. Tyran holds the mummified corpse by its tail and presents it to his stunned opponent. "I'm done," Tyran says. Mesa quickly recovers her composure and narrows her eyes with an intense look of determination. "Perfect," she says, her voice cold. "Now it's my turn." With a gentle wave of her fingers, another rat slowly approaches Mesa. She grabs the rat with both hands and quickly focuses her mana. Golden sparks erupt violently as the rat suddenly twitches and begins to mutate rapidly. The mutated beast screeches wildly in her grasp while golden smoke billows from its bloated body. Mesa gasps. Cold sweat drips down Mesa's face as she desperately tries to comprehend his bizarre spell. How on earth did he do that? She wonders silently. She continues to worry this is no longer just ordinary magic. Aziz recoils in disgust while Tyran stands calmly beside him without showing any sign of remorse. "How could you use magic like that?" "That's pretty creepy," Aziz says, shivering. Tyran replies, "It just came to mind right then." Tyran smiles faintly, secretly wondering about the true extent of the Northern family's magical knowledge. He silently ponders, "I didn't expect this, but does even a prestigious family like Arabian not know much about it?" Aziz steps forward and waves his hand dismissively to break the tense silence in the courtyard. "It seems like it's not going well, Mesa," Aziz says with a smirk. "How about we say Tyran wins?" Gritting her teeth in frustration, Mesa flares her golden mana to force the spell to work. "Shut up! You think I can't do this?" Mesa snaps, her eyes flashing with anger. The tiny rodent squeaks in terror as the golden magical energy begins to constrict its body. When using magic, causality is a highly complex element, the narrator explains. Sweat drips down her face as Mesa desperately focuses her mind to maintain the difficult spell. Is the phenomenon you are trying to trigger a natural occurrence? Does the user clearly recognize the magical cause of that phenomenon? And is the amount of mana consumed appropriate to produce that phenomenon? The narrator continues. Among these, the ability to perceive the cause of the phenomenon is, the narrator explains, a crucial factor that affects both the success rate and the amount of mana consumed. Mesa silently ponders just a bit more. Golden light illuminates the massive stone walls of the castle as the magic reaches its peak. She forces her remaining energy into the spell, determined to match the incredible talent of Tyran. And one way to compensate for insufficient causality when using magic, the narrator explains, is to pour in a massive amount of mana and make up for inefficiency with sheer quantity. The narrator continues. The glowing golden energy surges violently around the small creature to force the mutation to complete. With her blue eyes glowing brightly, Mesa commands the magic to take hold of the rodent. Mesa silently ponders, rot while it's still alive. The rat gradually begins to wither and lose its vitality. Aziz gasps in utter astonishment while Tyran watches the successful transformation with a highly serious expression. "Oh, it worked?" Aziz asks. Panting heavily from extreme exhaustion, Mesa holds up the mummified rat with a weak, trembling hand. "It's done," Mesa whispers, her voice barely audible. "I," she gasps, "did it." Her vision begins to blur as the last remnants of her magical energy completely drain away. With a soft thud, Mesa collapses limply onto the cold stone floor of the training courtyard. "Mesa!" Aziz screams in panic. Rushing over in a panic, Aziz cradles her head while Tyran kneels down beside them. "Mesa, what's wrong?" "Open your eyes," Aziz cries out. Tyran studies her pale face and carefully analyzes the strange symptoms of her sudden physical collapse. Tyran silently ponders, what's the reason for her to collapse? Did she use too much mana? He continues to reason, but she shouldn't collapse just from depleting mana. He realizes that a normal wizard would only feel tired rather than losing consciousness so quickly. Tyran silently ponders. She should only be suffering from exhaustion, since even the strength to reinforce her body is gone. A sudden realization flashes in his eyes as Tyran notices the black gloves on her hands. Tyran gasps. Tyran silently ponders, I see. Tyran quickly scoops Mesa into his arms and barks urgent instructions to Aziz beside him. There's no healing bloodline mage here, is there? Tyran asks. There isn't. Aziz replies. Then bring water and salt to this young lady's room, Tyran commands, and call the adults too, he adds. Carrying her toward the castle, Tyran feels deeply troubled by the fragile state of her body. Tyran silently ponders. She's so light that I can't even tell if I'm holding a person or a baby lamb. He continues to analyze from the start. She was barely maintaining a body she couldn't even sustain, and now that remaining mana is depleted too. Pale sunlight filters through the tall arched windows of a quiet bedroom, where the scent of lavender and old wood hangs in the air. Slowly opening her eyes, Mesa struggles to focus on the ornate ceiling above. Erg, she groans softly. Leaning over the bed with a deeply worried expression, Aziz's mother calls out to her niece. Mesa, are you okay? Are you conscious? She asks, her voice trembling slightly. Slowly sitting up against the soft pillows, Mesa looks around the unfamiliar room in confusion. Why am I here? She asks. Aziz said you collapsed suddenly while doing magic training with a guest. Aziz's mother explains, is that right? Mesa averts her gaze and remains completely silent, refusing to meet her aunt's eyes. She mutters quietly. While Ina stands quietly in the background, Aziz's mother continues her gentle interrogation. Did that person do something to you? She inquires. For now, we're keeping him in the temple under observation, she adds. Clutching her forehead in sudden agitation, Mesa defends Tyran with a desperate shout. No, it's not that person's fault, she protests. I just made a mistake for a moment, she insists. Everyone, please leave, my head is pounding, she cries out. Placing a warm bowl of soup on the bedside table, Aziz's mother sighs softly. I made some soup for you, she says gently. I know you don't eat because of the magic, but you need to think about your health too, she urges. I'll leave it here, she says. Try to eat at least a little. With a heavy heart, she slowly turns away, her shoulders slumping with deep exhaustion. She sighs. While the older women quietly exit the bedroom, Mesa watches them go. Thank you, Aunt, she whispers softly. Sitting alone in the silent room, Mesa stares blankly at the steaming bowl of soup. She thinks silently. She slowly lifts the spoon to her lips and takes a small sip of the broth. A sudden spasm of intense pain shoots through her body, causing her eye to widen. Grotesque, bleeding shadows swirl in a dark void, echoing with the haunting cries of the deceased. A horrifying vision of mutilated souls suddenly flashes before Mesa, their bloody faces screaming in agony. Help me, Mesa. I know you can do it. A distorted voice begs. It hurts so much, sister, the spirit cries out. Gagging violently, she drops the bowl, sending hot soup and shattered porcelain clattering onto the floor. Blurg, she retches. She tightly grips the bedsheets as another wave of intense nausea washes over her. Clutching her head in pure agony, Mesa struggles to block out the terrifying voices. A stone statue of a weeping goddess stands silently in the dim light of a temple. Cold, damp air fills the vast underground chamber, where towering stone pillars rise toward a vaulted ceiling. Tyran stands before a colossal golden statue of a winged goddess alongside a stern guard. Underground chamber of House Burg, he notes. Temple of the limping goddess. The guard slowly draws his sharp sword, the cold steel gleaming under the dim magical torches. The doors and walls are all solidified like muscles trained for centuries, without a single gap, he observes. Burg, a middle-aged man with short black hair, a neat beard, a scar on his cheek, and dark leather guard armor, glares at Tyran with a wary expression. Don't even think about breaking through this place to escape, Burg warns coldly. A cold breeze sweeps through the dark temple. Tyran nods slowly at the stern warning. Yes, I understand, he says. He then adds, in any case, I have no such intention. Burg crosses his arms and stares directly at Tyran with a serious expression. They are incredibly firm, he says. Tyran replies, I see. All right. Leaning in closer, Burg emphasizes the absolute defense of the chamber walls with pride. Extremely firm, Burg boasts. A single drop of sweat rolls down Tyran's cheek as he looks back at the man, feeling bewildered. He silently ponders as he, bragging. Suddenly, a sharp metallic sound echoes through the hall as he focuses on Burg. He gasps. Burg draws his heavy steel sword and begins executing a series of rapid strikes. Watching the sudden display of swordsmanship, Tyran tilts his head, questioning the man's actions. "What are you doing?" Tyran asks. "Training," Harem Borg replies. The blade slices cleanly through the damp air, as Harem Borg continues his intense practice. Tyran observes the flawless form and silently evaluates the incredible physical discipline of Harem Borg. He thinks to himself, his technique is superb. There isn't a single wasted movement. He continues his analysis. Every motion is the minimum preparation needed for the next strike. He wonders, is this the efficiency of a body truly honed for battle? The sudden gust of wind from the sword swing causes him to take a step back. He gasps. Harem Borg stops his movements and sheathes his weapon, looking over with a calm expression. "Ah, my apologies," Harem Borg says. "Did I get in your way?" Tyran replies, "No." Stepping forward quickly, Harem Borg leans in close and questions Tyran with an intense gaze. "What did you see in my movements just now?" Harem Borg demands. "What?" Tyran asks. Feeling slightly overwhelmed by the sudden proximity, he offers a simple and honest response. "I thought it was cool," he admits. Harem Borg stands upright once more and nods slowly, absorbing the straightforward answer with satisfaction. "I see," Harem Borg says. He gestures with his sword hilt while explaining the common attitude of the northern nobility. "Most nobles dismiss weapon arts as trivial," Harem Borg explains. "Because attacking from a distance with magic is far simpler," he adds. Shifting his stance, Harem Borg points out the inherent weakness of relying solely on spells. "But it is all because they possess weak bodies," Harem Borg continues. "The mind cannot command the flesh, so they are forced to rely on tricks," he says. Tyran listens intently to the explanation and offers his own perspective on the matter. "Unless their bloodline is specialized in strength," Tyran notes. "Focusing on magic is more practical and efficient," he adds. A vivid memory of his battle against the monsters flashes in his mind. "But after experiencing real combat," he says, "there are situations where you are forced to face it head-on, even if you wish to avoid it," he adds. Harem Borg suddenly extends the hilt of his sword toward Tyran in a silent challenge. Tyran gasps. Extending the heavy hilt forward, Harem Borg offers his weapon to Tyran without hesitation. Harem Borg says, "Take this." Staring at the polished steel, Tyran hesitates for a moment before addressing Harem Borg with a puzzled frown. "I thought you were keeping me here because I was a suspicious person," Tyran says. "Is it really all right to hand me a weapon?" Harem Borg replies, "That doesn't matter." Harem Borg chuckles softly and tightens his grip on the sheath with absolute confidence. "This is just an iron bar," Harem Borg says. "What makes it a sword is the body of the wielder." He adds, "With your weak body as it is now, you couldn't possibly land a strike on me." Accepting the challenge, Tyran firmly grasps the leather-wrapped hilt and tests its balanced weight. "True, even if I did try something." Tyran murmurs, nodding slowly. Sensing a sudden shift in the atmosphere, Harem Borg narrows his eyes in anticipation. A violent torrent of brilliant blue mana erupts from Tyran with explosive intensity. While cold mist sweeps across the ancient stone floor, Tyran stands ready to unleash his true strength. Harem Borg's face contorts in frustration as he bellows with rage. Harem Borg shouts, "That is not the way." Tyran stands in the center of the training hall, holding his sword steady under Harem Borg's watchful eye. Harem Borg warns, "Don't pour mana into it." Tyran replies, "All right." Harem Borg physically adjusts Tyran's stance to help him withstand the heavy weight of the blade. Harem Borg commands, "Put more weight on your front legs. Press it so the earth bears the blow." Harem Borg adds, "Your elbow is rising too much. With such weak elbows, you can't overcome the sword's weight. At this rate, your thigh will get pierced through." With sweat dripping from his brow, Tyran nods obediently to show his focus. Harem Borg demands, "Raise your arm. Don't set your own limit." Tyran mutters, "Yes, sir." Tyran swings his heavy sword repeatedly while Harem Borg watches his form with great care. Harem Borg shouts, "Good. 10 repetitions. Don't stop your breathing. Breathe into your muscles." Harem Borg smiles faintly, feeling quite pleased with the rapid progress of Tyran. Harem Borg says, "That's a fine vessel. If possible, make time to wring that body dry." Harem Borg continues his lecture while Tyran holds his sword high in the temple hall. Harem Borg explains, "Mana is mere parlor tricks. Wizards mistakenly assume their physical abilities are guaranteed, but that's only the minimum function your body possesses." After a long set of swings, Tyran lowers his weapon and nods respectfully to Harem Borg. Harem Borg says, "A properly trained body tears through the battlefield without the need of mana. You need to understand that difference. Tyran replies, I'll bear that in mind. The heavy door creaks open suddenly, causing Tyran to whip his head around in surprise. Assiz's mother enters the grand temple chamber and walks slowly toward Tyran. With a polite nod, Assiz's mother expresses her sincere gratitude to Tyran for his assistance. She says, Pardon me, Tyran. I have done something unforgivable to our benefactor. Tyran hands the sword back to Harem Borg and addresses Assiz's mother with respect. Tyran replies, I assume the young lady is unharmed. I am the one who should apologize. As a guest, my conduct was inappropriate. Assiz's mother delivers a message from Mesa to Tyran in a soft voice. She says, Mesa wishes to offer you a sincere apology. Would you happen to have some time? Soft sunlight streams through the tall arched window of the quiet bedroom, warming the polished wooden floorboards. Mesa murmurs, This is troublesome. I heard you were trapped in the temple because of me? I'm sorry for causing such unnecessary commotion. Tyran steps closer to Mesa and speaks to her in a calm tone. Tyran replies, It was necessary. I'm just glad you're safe. Mesa looks directly at Tyran as curiosity clearly takes hold of her thoughts. Mesa exclaims, That's right, that magic from yesterday, the one which makes animals rot. Is that perhaps an undisclosed bloodline magic? The mana consumption was absurd. Did you lie to me? Tyran gestures with his hand while Mesa listens intently to his explanation. Tyran explains, No. If you understand the principle, you should be able to use it easily as well. Mesa silently ponders him, so you won't teach it for free. Tyran responds to Mesa with a gentle demeanor. Mesa asks, But if you do not reveal the method, what proof is there that this is not bloodline magic? Tyran replies, I am not particularly concerned with whether I win or lose. Mesa raises her voice slightly because his indifferent attitude clearly frustrates her now. Mesa demands, What do you mean? Listen, if this ends like this, how would I look? Mesa proposes an intriguing trade to convince Tyran to share his magical secrets. Mesa says, Fine then. How about this? If you tell me the secret of that magic, I'll teach you one of Arabian's secret arts in return. Tyran nods gently as a soft light reflects off his silver hair. Tyran says with a calm smile, In that case, I have no objections. Sunlight streams through the tall windows as Tyran and Mesa stand in the quiet room, engaged in conversation. Mesa holds the shriveled rat by its tail and carefully analyzes the lingering magical energy. Mesa murmurs, so basically, the root is bio-enhancement magic. But you used microorganisms no one can see? Tyran replies, correct. Frustration clouds her features as Mesa lowers the rat and looks directly at her companion. Mesa exclaims, no wonder, that efficiency was abysmal because I didn't know things like that. Mesa sighs, I succeeded at the end, but it was brute force. Mesa mutters, how irritating. It is my loss then. Tyran stands calmly before her and gestures slightly to downplay his victory in their duel. Tyran says softly, I considered that part of the wager. Mesa snaps back, that is not right. She argues, when discussing magical techniques, we do not include the amount of mana recklessly poured out. Mesa pulls her high collar up to hide her embarrassment while turning her head away. She asks him, could you tell Aziz that it was a draw? She adds, I do not want to see that guy getting cocky about winning. Tyran replies, understood. Mesa walks over to her wooden dresser and begins searching through her personal belongings. She says then, you must receive proper compensation. She adds, let's see. She retrieves a finely crafted wooden comb and holds it up against the morning light. Mesa says, this should do the job. Tyran watches in silence as she raises the comb and begins running it through her hair. Strands of dark hair rise and cling to the wooden comb as Mesa demonstrates the phenomenon. Mesa explains, as you can see when objects rub like this, they attract each other. Mesa asks, this is. Tyran stares at the demonstration with a blank expression before quietly offering the scientific term. Tyran says, static electricity. Mesa stops her movements and gazes at him, completely frozen by his swift response. She gasps, what? She then asks, you knew? Tyran replies, yes. Mesa sighs in defeat and lowers her hand, conceding the magical contest to her companion. She groans, this alone is one of the quite profound secret arts. Erg. She continues, all right, I'll think a bit more about how to repay you. Mesa adds, I need to find what you don't know. Tyran replies, very well. Mesa crosses her arms and speaks with a defensive tone to hide her true intentions. She suggests, then, until I think of a suitable compensation. She asks, how about we train together from now on? Mesa quickly adds, "This is just to repay my debt to you, not because I particularly need you, understand." Tyran chuckles softly at her proud attitude and nods his head to accept her invitation. Tyran says with a warm smile, "All right." Mesa replies, "Then starting tomorrow, let's meet in the garden in the evening." Warm candlelight illuminates a grand dining hall, filled with the rich aroma of roasted meats and fresh bread. Assiz's father gestures toward the lavish feast while the family gathers around the long wooden table. He says, "It's not much, but please eat your fill." Aziz leans forward in surprise, gesturing toward the incredible variety of dishes spread before them. He asks, "Why did you prepare it so lavishly? I've never seen things like this even on my birthday." He adds, "Anyone who sees this would think Arabian's lord himself had visited." Assiz's mother commands, "Be quiet." Tyran silently ponders, "There's no way this is an ordinary meal." Lady Borg sits upright at the head of the table and addresses Tyran calmly. She says then, continuing from our earlier talk, and asks, "My son promised a powerful magic tool as the price of his own life." Tyran nods respectfully and says, "Yes, that's correct." Assiz's mother asks, "Do you have something specific in mind?" Tyran calmly explains, "I want something that aids in defense. It's easy to harm others with magic, but protecting oneself is difficult." He adds, "If possible, it should be able to protect from surprise attacks." Assiz's father says, "Since I've made similar items before, it shouldn't be difficult." He adds, "But we don't have anything ready immediately." Aziz asks, "Then may I make it for you?" His father replies with a stern expression, "If you're not thinking of dragging House Borg's honor through the mud, stop this." Milo, Assiz's older brother with slicked-back blonde hair, raises his hand and says, "I will make it." He continues, "I just finished a commission from the Marin House." Assiz's mother slowly turns to Tyran and asks for more specific details regarding the defensive magic tool. "How do you intend for it to be used?" she asks. Tyran replies, "Something portable enough to carry at all times would be ideal for defending against unexpected ambushes." Milo nods confidently and meets Tyran's gaze with calm assurance. "I will imbue mana into jewelry, a ring, earring, or necklace, and give it the ability to draw out defensive power from the protection bloodline," Milo explains. "That sounds acceptable." "How long will it take?" Tyran asks. "1 month," Milo answers. Assiz's father crosses his arms and speaks with pride about his eldest son's S-1EDDQ. Nothing is more embarrassing than a parent praising their own child. "But Milo is a skilled mage no less capable than myself," he says. "In other words, this will be a magic tool crafted by the head of a bloodline mage house, made over the course of an entire month," he adds. Tyran looks at Milo with a calm expression while Lady Borg sits upright across from him. "I appreciate that, but isn't this a bit excessive?" Tyran asks politely. Lady Borg immediately replies, "If this is excessive, does that not imply my son's life is only worth so much?" She adds firmly, "It is not excessive." Lady Borg continues with a steady voice as warm candlelight illuminates Tyran's face. "In that case, you are to remain as a guest of our house for the coming month," she says gently but firmly. "Make yourself at home," she adds with a smile. From the upper floor of a gray stone building, the cityscape of Zavillan unfolds beneath a hazy morning sky. Aziz says, "It seems Mother has taken quite a liking to you." Tyran and Aziz stroll through a bustling marketplace filled with vendors and passers-by. Aziz says cheerfully, "Actually, I spoke with her before bed yesterday and talked more about you." He continues, "Your magic talent doesn't fall behind Mesa's, and on top of that, you never neglect your training." Aziz glances sideways at Tyran with a lightly teasing tone. "Originally, Mother wanted to stop looking down on you by thinking you're just a wandering noble without proper backing," Aziz reveals. Tyran listens quietly then murmurs, "It sounds like she wants to recruit me into your house." Aziz breaks into a loud laugh and tilts his head with a sly expression. "That's right. She gives generously, then puts you in debt, then introduces a pretty young lady. That's how she tempts you," Aziz confirms. He laughs and adds, "In fact, there are several adults in the house who joined that way." Tyran mutters, "This is troubling." Tyran walks steadily beside Aziz and raises a hand to calmly ease his friend's worries. "Well, don't worry too much. Anyway, the magic tool is just something nice to buy your favor. You won't be forced to marry even if you want the magic tool." Aziz nods. "My mother isn't so lacking in refinement," he says. Tyran looks at Aziz with a slight smile. Aziz asks, "Oh, do you have anything to do for the rest of the day?" Tyran replies, "I promised to train with Lady Mesa in the evening. Is something the matter?" Aziz enthusiastically pulls Tiran along as the two walk side by side through the sunlit busy street. Evening. Then there's still quite a bit of time. Aziz exclaims, "All right, patrol with me instead." Zavillan may not be the capital, but there's plenty to enjoy, he says. Tiran raises an eyebrow and looks at Aziz with mild skepticism. "Surely you weren't planning to hole up in a corner training magic on a day like this?" Aziz asks. Tiran replies flatly, "Actually, I was." The two continue walking as Aziz drags Tiran through the city's inner courtyard. "Oh, please, life is too short not to enjoy it, my friend." Aziz laughs. Inside a lively casino, the sharp clatter of a spinning roulette wheel fills the air. The warm aroma of roasted barley and loud laughter fills a crowded, dimly lit tavern. Dust dances in the bright sunlight as a bustling marketplace hums. Tiran walks quietly beside Aziz. Glancing behind him, Tiran pauses on the cracked stone pavement to observe their surroundings. A wooden wall plastered with various wanted posters catches his attention as a low rumble echoes nearby. Tiran stares intently at a specific poster, his eyes narrowing as he suddenly recognizes a familiar face. The worn paper displays a detailed portrait of Kjorn with a sharp jawline and a serious gaze. "Kjorn?" Tiran whispers. A vivid memory of Kjorn smiling confidently with a toothpick in his mouth flashes before him. Could it be that Kjorn? Tiran wonders silently. Two wooden training swords clash violently with a loud crack, echoing through a brightly lit hall. Actors perform a dramatic historical play on a wooden stage while the audience watches from their seats. It was the year 2190, the narrator explains, when the warriors of Arabian ventured into that demon desert, and there was a knight named Kjorn. The lead actor delivers a decisive strike on stage to simulate a hard-fought victory over his opponent. Kjorn defeats the enemy with God's help after a hard-fought battle. The narrator shouts. Aziz claps enthusiastically in the front row, while Tiran joins in with a polite, measured applause. Leaning closer to his companion, Aziz beams with excitement and asks about his opinion on the performance. "How was it? Was it worth watching?" Aziz asks. Tiran responds, "Oh, it was very good." Tiran recalls the humble words of Kjorn as he reflects on his unmatched reputation. "I am merely an ordinary knight," Kjorn says. His humility is truly wonderful, Tiran thinks. Golden sunset light bathes the tiled roofs of Zavillan as the evening breeze sweeps quietly across the city. "Someday, when I meet Kjorn again, I must ask if that story is really true," Tiran thinks. Bright morning sunlight streams through the tall arched windows of a lavish bedroom as birds chirp softly outside. Tiran slowly opens his eyes and blinks against the morning light, waking up in his bed. He murmurs. Haramburg stands silently by the bedside, looking down at Tiran with a serious expression. Sitting on his heels, Haramburg addresses Tiran directly while the morning light fills the bedroom. "Did your body rest well?" Haramburg asks. "Ah, yes, but what brings you here?" Tiran replies. Rubbing his eyes sleepily, Tiran sits up in bed and listens to the swordsman's unexpected praise. "I noticed yesterday that your body is quite good," Haramburg says. Haramburg stands up and gestures toward the door, urging Tiran to follow him. "It is time for training." "Follow me," Haramburg says. "Are we going to train?" Tiran asks. "The body does not grow stronger by lying around. It only strengthens when it is being tempered," Haramburg explains. Tiran looks back with a determined expression, ready to embrace the challenge of their training session. "Do you not want to do it?" Haramburg asks. "No, let's go," Tiran replies. "I'll gain more that way than just playing." While the morning sun illuminates the cozy bedroom, the heavy wooden door suddenly swings open. Aziz smiles warmly. "Hey, Tiran," he adds, "I heard there was a really fantastic performance today." Stepping inside, Aziz freezes instantly upon noticing Haramburg standing silently beside the bed. Aziz shrieks in terror, "Uncle." Haramburg crosses his arms and stares down at Aziz with a stern expression. "We are heading to training," Haramburg says. "You must also temper that weak body of yours. Will you come?" Aziz stammers, "Huh? No, I was just out and only just returned." Without waiting for another word, Aziz spins around and sprints down the corridor in a panic. "That is why I have not recovered yet," Aziz screams. Tiran watches his friend flee in utter confusion while Haramburg remains perfectly still. Why is he acting like that? Tiran silently ponders. Cold sweat drips down Tiran's face as the true horror of the situation finally dawns on him. So that's how it was. Tiran thinks in panic. Haramburg sits on Tiran's back while he struggles to complete another grueling push-up. "Don't you hear your bodies cry?" Haremburg demands. Once more. Tyran groans, Haremburg shouts, barely this much pain and you'll yield. He adds, your mind is being dominated by your body's weakness. Tyran presses his trembling palms against the cold stone floor while straining under the immense weight. One last time, Haremburg orders. Tyran whimpers, ugh. Haremburg finally gets up from Tyran's back. That's enough, Haremburg says. Collapsing onto the hard ground, Tyran pants heavily while trying to catch his breath. Haremburg stands over him with folded arms, looking down with a calm expression. Is it tiring? Haremburg asks. Yes, Tyran gasps. A faint smile appears on Haremburg's face as he explains the benefits of physical training. At least you're a wizard, so doing this once is enough, Haremburg says. Count yourself fortunate. Tyran asks, is it different if you're not a wizard? Slowly sitting up, Tyran listens intently to Haremburg's explanation of physical limits. That's right, Haremburg replies. An ordinary body weakens again over time, even after being tempered once. He adds, you need constant trials to maintain it in that case. Tyran rubs his sore shoulders while Haremburg continues to detail the nature of mana. But wizards have mana maintaining their bodies in optimal condition, Haremburg says. Because of that, once it is forged into steel, it does not weaken, he adds. Haremburg smiles warmly, his eyes filled with a sudden, terrifying enthusiasm for their next lesson. Well then, Haremburg says, you must be fully rested now. Tyran finally understands why Aziz ran for his life the moment he heard his uncle mention physical training. No, I am still, Tyran stammers. Haremburg leans in close, his face lit with a fierce and unyielding determination. I know your body doesn't lie, Haremburg says. You've rested enough. He adds now, I'll teach you weaponry and combat. A desperate scream echoes through the empty training hall, shaking the heavy stone walls. Ag, Tyran screams. The days at House Borg were truly fulfilling, the narrator explains. Despite being pushed to the brink of exhaustion every day, Tyran has gradually grown accustomed to the training rhythm and embraces it with enthusiasm. Sparks fly violently as Tyran clashes his steel sword against Haremburg's heavy blade. This is a special space where the body becomes several times heavier than usual, Haremburg explains. He warns, one misstep and you'll be buried in the floor. The narrator adds, waking up early, training with Harem. The narrator explains, in the evening I returned to the mansion to repeat magic training with Mesa, and before I knew it, 3 weeks had passed. Tyran lowers his hand and sighs in frustration while small sparks of blue electricity fizzle out. I missed again, Tyran says. Mesa steps closer and looks at him with a calm, analytical gaze under the dimming sky. You're struggling more than expected, Tyran, she says. Tyran offers a light smile and shrugs his shoulders to dismiss his lack of progress. It's because I'm not from Arabian, he says. Mesa and Tyran walk slowly along the garden path while discussing the intricate mechanics of magic. It's hard for me to help too, Mesa says. I've never thought of aiming lightning magic that way. Tyran asks, doesn't it just hit if you shoot it? It's harder than one may think, she replies. Mesa stops abruptly as an urgent voice suddenly echoes from the far end of the terrace. Lady Mesa, a voice shouts. A young messenger wearing a brown cloak and leather armor runs quickly toward Mesa and Tyran. There you were, he pants. The messenger suddenly freezes in his tracks upon noticing Tyran standing quietly beside Mesa. This man is, he stammers. Mesa immediately steps forward to shield Tyran and glares coldly at the uninvited guest. That's none of your business, Mesa snaps. What brings you here? She adds, I told the Marin house that no one should approach me while I'm recovering. The messenger bows his head respectfully but maintains a serious tone as he delivers his message. The patriarch has summoned you, he says. Mesa demands, what is it? She warns, answer quickly. If it's a trivial reason, you should prepare yourself to be punished. Both Tyran and Mesa widen their eyes in shock as the grave news is finally revealed. Dark elves are rampaging fiercely in the south. The messenger exclaims. He adds, 3 cities have already fallen, and they say they will assemble an expedition force. The cold evening wind howls through the silent courtyard. Tyran stares ahead, realizing war has arrived. Tyran silently ponders they have appeared. Golden sunset light bathes the courtyard as a cloaked messenger bows deeply before Mesa and Tyran. I understand, Mesa says, nodding calmly. Tell them I'll return soon. Mesa sighs softly, watching the messenger depart from the castle courtyard. It seems I should go take a look, she murmurs. Turning her head slightly, Mesa addresses Tyran, who stands quietly beside her. "Ah, come to think of it about that creepy corruption magic. I should pay the cost for it," she says. Mesa suddenly claps her hands together with a sharp sound to gather his attention. She gasps. Tyran looks back at her with a curious expression as she begins her explanation. "Tyran, do you know that electricity flows through the human body?" Mesa asks. Stunned by this bizarre concept, Tyran blinks in surprise and questions her statement. "What? Really?" Tyran asks. Mesa smiles confidently and tilts her head back to look at her companion. "You don't know? I guess you have no reason to," she says. "This is an Arabian secret teaching." The two wizards stand opposite each other on the stone pavement under the warm sky. "Then wouldn't it be fair to call the debt settled if I teach you this properly?" Mesa asks. "It will definitely be of great help." Tyran replies, "Very well." Mesa raises her finger and narrows her eyes to explain the biological process. When a person sees or feels something, a tiny electrical signal is sent to the brain, she explains. If you see with your eyes, signals go from the eyes to the brain. If you smell something, it goes from the nose to the brain. While tapping her temple, Mesa continues to describe the flow of these electrical commands. Through this electricity, the brain understands the sensation and sends electrical signals back throughout the body to command movement, she says. Tyran listens intently, silently connecting her words to the ancient laws of nature. Tyran silently ponders, "I don't understand, but either way there must be a reason. The library's materials were the same at first. Perhaps this is part of the nature laws that Arabian has passed down." A beautiful blue butterfly flutters past them as Mesa poses a theoretical question. "What do you think happens if you accelerate this electricity with magic?" Mesa asks. "The speed at which you perceive and react will become faster," Tyran replies. Mesa watches the butterfly fly away while challenging Tyran to replicate the magic. "Correct. Shouldn't you be a scholar instead of doing this?" Mesa says. "Let me demonstrate right away," Tyran replies. "I'm curious how quickly you'll learn," Mesa adds. Tyran slowly closes his eyes and takes a deep breath to concentrate his mana. Blue lightning crackles violently across Tyran's face as he activates the internal magic. Tyran silently ponders minute electricity. A glowing map of electrical pathways illuminates Tyran's entire nervous system with bright light. Tyran silently ponders, "That electricity flowing throughout my entire body." The vibrant blue energy surges downward, rapidly spreading through the pathways of his legs. Tyran silently ponders, "If I make the lightning transmitted through that pathway even faster." A low rumble echoes through the courtyard as the intense magical current reaches his feet. Sparks of blue electricity erupt from Tyran's eye as the spell successfully takes hold. Opening his eyes wide, Tyran gazes at his surroundings in this state for the very first time. Everything seems to pass before his eyes in ultra-slow motion, even the butterfly from earlier drifting sluggishly by. "Oh my," he gasps. Witnessing the astonishing power of knowledge for the first time, he cannot help but exclaim, "My goodness." While Tyran chuckles softly, a sudden sharp sensation jolts through his mind. "Ha, what is this?" Tyran wonders. Violent bolts of white lightning crackle fiercely around his temples as the magic overloads. Tyran stumbles forward and tightly clutches his throbbing head to endure the immense pressure. "Urg," Tyran groans. Standing tall with a calm expression, Mesa gestures slightly while lecturing her struggling companion. "HMPH. Seems like you succeeded," she says. "That's what happens when you just use large amounts of mana recklessly." As Tyran slowly raises his head, he listens to her detailed explanation of the side effects. "You'll probably have a headache and find it hard to adjust at first," Mesa explains, "but once you get used to it, you'll be able to maintain it for quite a long time." Tyran silently ponders, "I think. This is far too much as compared to what I've given you." With a sudden leap, Mesa floats gracefully into the air above the stone courtyard. "This is just an investment," she says, "since you seem to have some talent." She looks down at him with a proud smile while her cape flutters in the wind. "Later, if you learn greater magic," Mesa says with a laugh, "I will not only collect what I gave you, but everything you owe me." Mesa shoots across the sky like a shooting star, leaving a faint trail of dust behind. Standing alone in the quiet courtyard, Tyran watches her departure as the wind sweeps past. Bright morning sunlight illuminates the bustling streets of Morgan City as a hawk glides gracefully overhead. Row after row of armored soldiers stand in perfect formation along the wide stone avenue. Dakane Plains Central City, Morgan City. Excited citizens wave their hands and shout enthusiastically to support the departing expedition force. The crowd shouts, "To bring glory to Arabian." The citizens cheer, "Glory to Arabian." Observing the massive celebration, Tyran stands quietly beside Aziz among the cheering spectators. Tyran silently ponders, this is a deployment ceremony against the Dark Elves, but it looks just like a triumphal march. Look at that enthusiasm. Suddenly, Aziz points toward the approaching cavalry with a look of pure excitement. He waves his arm vigorously to catch her attention as she rides a dark horse. "That's Mesa, Mesa, over here," Aziz shouts. Grabbing his arm firmly, Aziz's father glares at him with a stern and unyielding expression. "Aziz, as a noble, maintain your dignity," his father commands. "Father, even so," Aziz protests, but his father snaps, "Stop it." Tyran and Aziz quickly turn their attention toward the grand city gates as trumpet horns echo. The herald shouts, the house head is entering. Under the vast blue sky, a row of armored guards stands at absolute attention along the stone walkway. Looking through the crowd, Tyran focuses his attention on the mysterious figure approaching from the distance. "That person is," Tyran whispers, "the current house head of Arabian." Stern-faced, with messy brown hair and wearing a blue cloak, Battle Arabian walks slowly past the silent guards. With intense blue eyes glowing beneath his brow, the powerful leader steps forward to address the crowd. "Battle Arabian," the narrator declares. Tyran leans slightly toward his companion to quietly discuss the weary appearance of the arriving patriarch. Aziz, the house head's complexion seems poor, Tyran notes. He looks really pale. Could he be in ill health? Aziz whispers, "I heard rumors that he once fought the head of House Zahar and suffered incredibly severe wounds." He pauses, then adds, "But that was a long time ago. Perhaps it is simply his age." The surrounding citizens hold their breath as the patriarch raises his hand high toward the heavens. Battle Arabian projects his voice across the square, instantly commanding the absolute attention of the people. "Trust that I am always behind you," Battle bellows. "Advance forward." His glowing eyes flash with immense magical power as he prepares to unleash a monumental spell. "This is the strength of Arabian," Battle Arabian declares. Massive bolts of golden lightning erupt from the darkened sky, completely enveloping the cheering crowd below. "Woa!" The crowd roars, shouting, "Eternal be Arabian." They cry out, "Thunderlord, grant your descendants your protection." Tyran watches this spectacular display of elemental magic with deep admiration and fascination. "That is the true strength of Arabian," Tyran whispers. Golden lightning illuminates the majestic castle of Zavillan, casting long shadows over the sprawling medieval city below. Even with a frail body, he still stands at the pinnacle of magic, the narrator observes. A power capable of turning heaven and earth upside down. Tyran stares ahead with unyielding determination, his heart filled with a burning desire to reach those heights. "Someday, I too will be like that," Tyran vows. Light streams through the arched windows of the workshop. Milo presents the newly crafted magic tool to Tyran. "Here you are," Milo says. Milo explains the defensive capabilities of the bracelet while Tyran carefully examines the glowing artifact. "Even just carrying it increases your physical durability slightly," Milo explains, "and when you channel mana, that degree increases further. Ultimately, it will reach a level 183 similar to a guardian bloodline noble." Milo smiles warmly while offering a crucial warning about the cost of using this magic tool. "But its mana consumption is immense," Milo warns, "so it is best not to maintain it for too long." Tyran turns the bracelet over in his hands, deeply impressed by Milo's exquisite craftsmanship. "This is truly an incredible treasure," Tyran murmurs, holding the magic tool up. He continues in awe, "An item of this caliber is rare even among prestigious families. It is an exceptionally well-crafted piece." Lady Borg steps forward quietly, breaking the silence of the sunlit room with her gentle voice. "Tyran," she calls out. She looks at him with a gentle expression, offering him an official place within her family. "Have you ever thought of formally joining our house?" she asks. Tyran bows his head politely to decline the generous invitation, prompting a soft nod from Lady Borg. "Thank you truly for the offer, Lady Borg, but I fear it will be difficult," Tyran replies. "I thought as much," she sighs. She crosses her arms and smiles understandingly, recalling the words Aziz had shared with her. "Aziz told me about it," Aziz's mother says. He says you're a person with much to do who cannot stay in one place. Forgive me for having to ask again. Tyran places a hand over his chest to express his deep gratitude to Lady Bourg. I will not forget the warm hospitality I received from the househead, Tyran promises. Aziz and the Bourg family will be my friends forever. Very well. That is enough then, she smiles. Stepping out into the stone corridor, Tyran stops abruptly. Harem Bourg stands beside Aziz in the quiet hallway, silently waiting for Tyran to emerge. Harem Bourg extends his hand to offer a beautifully sheathed dagger to Tyran. Take this, Harem Bourg says. He accepts the weapon and runs his fingers along the sturdy leather wrapping of the sheath. It's a magic tool, Harem Bourg explains. It has no extraordinary function, but it's durable and sharp. Tyran clutches the gift to his chest and expresses his sincere appreciation to Harem Bourg. Thank you, Tyran says. He flinches slightly and averts his gaze, clearly embarrassed by the respectful title Tyran used. Teacher, Harem Bourg stammers. A rare, genuine smile appears on Harem Bourg's face before he turns and walks down the corridor. Aziz steps forward and playfully drapes a heavy black travel cloak over Tyran's shoulders. He looks down at the fine fabric in confusion while Aziz grins widely beside him. What is this? Tyran asks. Didn't you say you envied my clothes? Aziz replies. Aziz presents a neatly folded bundle of durable travel clothes designed to withstand harsh journeys. They don't get easily soiled, and slight tears repair themselves, Aziz explains. Here, these are a shirt and pants. Tyran smiles warmly at Aziz, deeply touched by the thoughtful parting gifts from the family. Aziz, Tyran whispers. Pale morning light filters through the high stone arches, casting a warm, quiet glow over the castle exit. Aziz beams with a bright, genuine smile while bidding farewell to his companion. You are a good friend, Tyran, Aziz says warmly, not merely because you saved my life, but spending time with you and seeing how you live has given me much to think about. The two companions stand together in the quiet stone corridor to say their final goodbyes. So then, where do you plan to head next? Aziz asks. East for now, Tyran replies calmly. Shaking his head slowly, Aziz offers some practical travel advice based on his own past journeys. I see. So, Carmine, I've been there myself, Aziz murmurs. If you can afford it, don't take a ship. The waves are truly the worst. Wine glasses dance in them, they say. Tyran listens quietly while keeping his true destination a secret from his well-meaning friend. Tyran silently ponders. Beyond those waves lies Zahar's land, the Emerald Desert. I can't tell him that, though. The sprawling city of Zavillan rests peacefully under a vast, bright sky as their conversation concludes. Well, a stubborn fellow like you won't starve to death wherever you go, Aziz chuckles. Come back safely and earn your keep with that cloak, got it? Okay, Tyran nods. Tyran begins his journey, walking steadily along a dirt path that cuts through a vast, golden wheat field. Looking back at the receding city walls, Tyran smiles faintly at the quiet road ahead. I'm alone again, Tyran whispers softly to himself. Taking a firm step forward, Tyran prepares to accelerate his pace to cover more ground. Now then, Tyran murmurs. Tyran suddenly dashes forward with incredible speed, leaving a massive cloud of dust in his wake. Let's do some running, Tyran says with a grin. A passing traveler gasps in utter bewilderment as a sudden gust of wind sweeps past him. Tyran slides his boots against the dirt, bringing himself to a sudden halt on the path. Tyran raises his head and sniffs the air, detecting a strange scent drifting through the trees. Towering rocky mountains rise majestically in the distance, partially shrouded by thick ancient pine forests. Tyran stands silently on the dirt path, dwarfed by the massive wilderness stretching out before him. Furrowing his brow, Tyran carefully analyzes the unsettling odor that continues to grow stronger. Shem, Tyran mutters. Tyran walks deeper into the dim forest where a thick, eerie fog clings to the damp ground. Tyran silently ponders, smell of a campfire? No, it's something more repulsive. The smell of burning animal flesh. Tyran suddenly stops in his tracks as a disturbing sight catches his attention through the mist. Tyran gasps. The charred ruins of a destroyed village lie ahead, littered with shattered timber and collapsed stone walls. Tyran gazes down at the devastation, realizing that a violent tragedy has recently occurred here. Maggots crawl slowly over the rotting, hollowed-out skull of a deceased animal lying in the dirt. Tyran walks past several lifeless bodies bound tightly to wooden stakes in the center of the ruins. This is, Tyran whispers in horror. Ash drifts through the ruined settlement as Tyran stands amidst the charred remains of the village. Could there have been a bandit attack? Tyran wonders aloud. Stepping closer to a burnt corpse, Tyran notices sinister markings that indicate a much darker force. The dark elves shouldn't have come this far, he mutters. A sudden sound from a nearby collapsed structure catches his attention and makes him freeze. Tyran gasps. Tyran enters the ruined building and kneels down beside a hidden wooden trapdoor on the floor. "It's down here," Tyran whispers. Grabbing the wooden handle, Tyran uses his strength to lift the heavy barrier away. Looking down into the dark cellar, Tyran spots a young girl with short dark hair wearing a simple white dress. The child recoils in absolute terror upon seeing his shadow loom over her hiding spot. "Kaya," she screams. He raises his hands in a placating gesture to show that he means no harm. "Wait. Calm down. I'm not your enemy," Tyran says gently. "I came to help," he reassures her. Tears well up in her eyes as she slowly looks up at him with hope. "Really?" she asks. Tyran steps down into the basement and kneels to speak with her at I La Villetta 183. "Really? Could you tell me what happened?" Tyran asks. She trembles as she recalls the horrifying event that destroyed her home and family. "They're all dead," she sobs. "That wizard." Tyran looks at her startled. "A wizard?" he asks. The immense emotional toll overcomes her, causing her body to collapse limply onto the floor. Tyran gasps. Tyran quickly scoops her up and carefully checks her pulse to assess her physical state. Tyran murmurs. Fortunately, her condition isn't critical. She must just be exhausted from being locked in the basement for so long, he reasons. Carrying the unconscious child, Tyran begins to climb back up the stairs toward the exit. "For now, I'll take this child to safety," Tyran says. Outside the ruins, an unseen assailant draws a bowstring tight, aiming a glowing magical arrow. A sudden shout echoes through the air as Tyran looks up to face the unexpected threat. "Found you," a voice yells. A blonde archer with a high ponytail, wearing a white shirt, aims a glowing blue arrow at Tyran. With a glare full of hatred, the blonde archer pulls her glowing blue bowstring even tighter. "Kneel," she commands. A cold wind howls through the silent ruins. Tyran stands perfectly still, cradling the sleeping child close. "Murderer," the blonde archer shouts. Ash and smoke drift through the ruined village as Bison draws her glowing bowstring tight. Bison demands, "Just the tied-up corpses weren't enough, huh?" She adds, "You are now trying to kidnap a child too." Beside her, Gil conjures a blazing pillar of fire, his hands trembling with tension. Gil stammers, "Don't move any further." He warns, "If you twitch even a little, I'll." Tyran stands calmly in the distance, cradling the unconscious child close to his chest. Tyran says, "Wait, this is a misunderstanding." Without warning, Gil unleashes a massive torrent of flames toward Tyran. Bison gasps in surprise. Furious at the reckless attack, Bison grabs Gil by his collar and shakes him violently. Bison screams, "Gil, you idiot. There was a child with him." Gil stammers, "Sorry, it was an accident. I got too nervous." Bison freezes in absolute shock as a hand emerges unscathed from the smoke. Tyran stands perfectly unharmed, his newly crafted bracelet glowing with a brilliant blue defensive light. Looking down at his glowing wrist, Tyran smiles faintly at the incredible power of the artifact. Tyran silently ponders, "I didn't expect to use it right after coming out." The companions stare in disbelief at the unharmed traveler holding the sleeping child. The bald, bearded man mutters, "My goodness." Ashau whispers, "There's not even a scratch." Gil gasps, "Did he just block the magic?" With his body, sweating profusely, Bison tries to comprehend the mysterious defensive spell he used. Bison silently ponders, what kind of defensive magic was that? Is it a bloodline ability? Tyran addresses the hostile group with a steady voice, refusing to let them attack again. Tyran says, "I didn't attack this village." He adds, saying it again, "This is a misunderstanding." He warns, however, "If you attack again, I will retaliate." Bison hesitates, her grip on the glowing bow tightening as she considers his words. The young girl remains fast asleep, completely unaware of the tense standoff happening around her. Bison says, "Well, there's no reason to stay here." She adds, after causing such a tragedy and sparing only one child. Lowering her weapon, Bison steps forward to introduce herself to the mysterious traveler. Bison says, "My name is Bison, and you are?" Tyran replies, "Tyran." Gil and Bison watch Tyran closely, still harboring deep doubts about his true intentions. Bison says, "Even if the circumstantial evidence says so," she asks, "how can I trust you?" Tyran gestures toward the sleeping girl, offering a simple solution to clear his name. Tyran says, "You can ask the child directly once she wakes up." He adds, she seemed to have actually seen the real culprit. A sudden gasp escapes Bison as the weight of his words sinks in. Bison gasps what? Bison stares at Tyran in disbelief, her eyes wide with sudden hope and confusion. Bison asks, she's seen the burner? Tyran repeats the burner. Thick gray ash drifts over the charred ruins as Tyran shifts the sleeping child in his arms. Bison asks, "You don't know?" Tyran replies, "I don't." Bison grits her teeth as a look of deep frustration darkens her features. Bison explains, a deranged wizard who committed this atrocity. She adds, "For the past few months, they've been periodically attacking remote villages," she continues, "binding people and burning them to death. Previously, a mysterious hooded figure had stood before the blazing homes, leaving absolutely no survivors behind." Bison continues, "Since there are no survivors, we don't even know their gender." She adds, "All we know about them is." Fierce orange flames consume the screaming victims, painting a terrifying picture of the cruel killer's work. Bison finishes, "That they're called the burner." Sitting quietly on a smooth stone, the young girl wraps the gray blanket tightly around herself. The young girl murmurs him. She adds, "A red cloak and a face with facial hair." She continues, "He looked as rough as a woodcutter." The travelers gather around the child, listening intently to her description of the mysterious arsonist. With a sheepish look, Bison turns back toward Tyran while he stands patiently with folded arms. Bending forward in a deep bow, Bison offers her sincere apologies for their reckless behavior. Bison says, "I'm sorry we were rude in our haste." She adds, "It was clearly my mistake to point a weapon at you." Gil stammers, "I'm truly sorry too." Tyran recalls the moment he and Midden's group met, which was quite similar to this. Midden says in the memory, even among the nobility, there are those whose eagerness gets the better of them sometimes. Tyran silently ponders. Midden is an honest person and a good leader. Tyran offers a gentle smile, completely dismissing their earlier hostility with a soft wave of his hand. Tyran says, "At least you were concerned for the child's safety." He adds, "So let's put that behind us." He asks, "So did you come to catch the burner?" Bison rubs the back of her neck, feeling quite embarrassed by their massive misunderstanding. Bison replies, "Yes. Since there was someone near a freshly burned place," she adds, "I thought we'd finally caught them this time. But it turned out like this. Asha, a girl with gray hair, wears a dark outfit with a scarf." Bison says, "Anyway, now that we have a description of the culprit, we should be able to catch him soon." She adds, "After all, we have a natural-born tracker here." Tyran tilts his head in curiosity, wondering about the unique magical tracking abilities of their companion. Tyran asks, "A tracker?" He asks, "Are you from House Zahar?" He adds, "And what are you doing in a place like this?" Bison waves her hands frantically to clarify her identity and introduce her loyal traveling companions. Bison exclaims, "No, I'm Carmine." "Bison Carmine." She adds, "I came from Avitcha." She explains, "These are my friends who are my house's vassals." As they walk through the quiet forest, Bison explains the unique lineage of her quiet companion. Bison explains, "Ashahir is a descendant of a branch from our ancestors' generation that mixed Zahar noble blood." She adds, "Their bloodline manifested weakly, so they're skilled in search magic but lack talent in concealment." She concludes, "My house calls them the primordial bloodline." The charred remnants of the destroyed village stand silently under the fading light of the afternoon. Bison says, "That aside." Tyran, she adds, "I have one request." Tyran listens quietly, his expression remaining neutral as he awaits the details of her proposal. Bison asks, "Could you possibly help us hunt down the burner?" Placing her hand over her heart, Bison offers a generous reward to secure his assistance. Bison promises, "I'll give you all the bounty on him." She adds, "Or I could also yield my share of mana." She explains, "After all, what I need is to build a reputation." Tyran gestures slightly while questioning the true combat strength of the dangerous rogue wizard they pursue. Tyran asks, "So about the burner, do we not even know how strong he is?" Bison replies, "It's certain he's a noble of V-1ED3 wizard." Tyran narrows his eyes, realizing the immense danger posed by this ruthless and powerful opponent. Bison warns among the villages they attacked, some were defended by multiple knights, she adds, and they were all killed. Tyran mutters multiple knights were slain. Staring silently into the distance, Tyran considers the potential of facing such a formidable rogue wizard. Tyran silently ponders, "For me right now, he might be the opponent I need." He adds, the low-rank monsters in the wild aren't enough to help me grow stronger anymore. Smiling brightly at the unexpected agreement, Bison nods in relief. Tyran says all right. He adds, first let me entrust this child. Bright sunlight bathes a peaceful wooden settlement where villagers go about their daily routines. Tyran hands a heavy leather pouch of coins to a local villager in the sunlit settlement. Tyran says here, I'll give you enough money to take care of this child until she grows up. The villager stammers, will do our best. Looking down at the young girl, Tyran bids her a quiet farewell before turning away. Before leaving, he also warns the person in charge. I'll come back to check in a few years. Clutching the heavy bag, the villager gasps in surprise with a hint of fear. Asha closes her eyes to focus her senses, before suddenly opening them with a bright blue glow. While walking through the dense forest, Bison turns to ask Asha for an update. Bison asks, how is it? Asha replies, I think we need to look around a bit more. The companions quicken their pace as they follow the dirt path winding deeper into the wilderness. Bison says, good, let's move. Where should we go? Asha shouts this way. Stopping near a fallen tree, Asha tilts her head up to catch a faint scent. Asha sniffs the air. Tyran watches the search with interest and decides to ask about her specific tracking methods. Tyran asks, might I ask what exactly you're looking for right now? Asha explains her process while keeping her focus locked onto the faint traces on the ground. Asha explains, we first found the footprints of an adult male. She adds, and by the time it led to the Marin Road, we picked up the smell of ash. She concludes, if he hadn't changed clothes, ash would have clung to him. Impressed by her dedication, Tyran silently analyzes the information she has gathered so far. Tyran silently ponders, she's quite professional. He adds, before, she couldn't find him because she didn't even know the gender. Asha suddenly gasps as a clear trail reveals itself to her enhanced senses. Asha shouts, found him. Asha dashes forward into the trees, leaving the rest of the group to scramble after her. Bison shouts, wait, Asha, slow down a little. A massive rocky mountain looms ahead, its sheer stone cliffs towering over the dense green canopy. The travelers cautiously approach a dark cave entrance nestled deep within the base of the mountain. Bison stops near the cave mouth and turns to coordinate their entry with Tyran. Bison commands Tyran, stay with me at the front, the rest follow behind. Channeling her mana, Bison creates a brilliant orb of light that hovers just above her palm. Damp air and cold shadows envelop the companions as they step carefully into the dark cavern. Cold, damp air clings to the rugged stone walls as the travelers venture deeper into the dark cavern. Bison asks, is there someone inside? Asha stops and narrows her glowing blue eyes, focusing her enhanced senses on the path ahead. Asha whispers, yeah, one person. Their footsteps echo softly against the wet ground, while they cautiously advance through the narrow passage. Bison keeps her hand close to her bow as a flickering orange light illuminates the chamber. A scarred man wearing a tattered brown hood and a dirty gray robe stands before them. The stranger stares with wide, crazed white eyes and a creepy grin stretching across his face. The stranger asks, what brings you out to such a remote place, dear guests? Tyran carefully seeks confirmation from his gray-haired companion. Tyran asks, is that person the burner? Asha replies, I can smell it. Yes, that's him. Bison swiftly draws her bowstring, conjuring a brilliant arrow of pure frost magic to threaten him. Bison says, you probably are, but just to be sure, I'll ask. She demands, are you the murderer who's been capturing and burning villagers from nearby towns? The rogue wizard tilts his head slightly, his twisted smile widening under the shadow of his hood. The rogue wizard murmurs, I don't quite understand. With a sudden, violent motion, the crazed wizard thrusts his bandaged hand forward to unleash his power. A massive torrent of roaring orange flames erupts from his palm, completely engulfing the narrow stone cavern. The intense heat waves crash against the group, forcing them to shield themselves from the blazing inferno. Gil screams, ag. Tyran raises his arm, activating the defensive bracelet that Milo had crafted to block the deadly heat. A shimmering blue magical barrier forms instantly, shielding both Tyran and Bison from the raging firestorm. The rogue wizard recoils in utter disbelief as his signature spell fails to leave a single scratch. The rogue wizard gasps, what? Seizing the perfect opportunity, Bison releases her charged frost arrow directly through Tyran's protective blue barrier. The icy projectile streaks through the air and pierces deep into the wizard's leg, drawing blood. The wounded man collapses heavily onto his knees. his breathing turning ragged as blood stains his robe. He slams his blood-covered hand onto the cracked stone floor, his eyes burning with pure, unbridled fury. A colossal hand made of solid stone suddenly erupts from the cavern floor, towering over the companions. Tyran looks up at the massive stone structure as dust and debris rain down around him. Tyran silently ponders, changing the terrain. Wasn't he from a pyromaniac's bloodline? A sharp scream of terror echoes through the cavern as the stone hand descends. Dodging the falling debris, Tyran lands gracefully on the cracked ground and charges toward the rogue wizard. The burner raises his hand, preparing to cast another spell. With a lightning-fast motion, Tyran unleashes a powerful magical strike that cuts off the rogue wizard's attack and slices his arm clean off. He screams in agony, blood splattering everywhere. Without stopping for even a second, Tyran continues to concentrate his mana to summon the intense lightning magic he has practiced. Crackling blue lightning surges forward from his fingertips, completely engulfing the screaming wizard in a brilliant flash. The rogue wizard screams, "Ag!" The massive stone hand crumbles into harmless dust as the rogue wizard collapses onto the stone floor. Tyran steps forward, carefully keeping the bright blue electricity crackling around and restraining the burner rather than dispelling the magic early. Bison cautiously approaches from behind while Tyran keeps his gaze fixed on the unconscious man below. Bison asks, "Did you defeat him?" Tyran replies, "I suppose so." He adds, "I'll handle this side, so please look after the others." Opening his palm, Tyran drops several small black seeds onto the chest of the fallen wizard. Thick blue vines erupt from the seeds and tightly bind the rogue wizard to ensure he cannot escape. Tyran says, "I've sealed his legs and arms, so it's over." Damp, cold air fills the dark cavern as flickering orange firelight casts long shadows against the stone walls. Tyran taps the flat of his blade against the rogue wizard's cheek. Tyran says, "Hey, wake up." The bound rogue wizard groans, "Erg." With a swift, decisive movement, Tyran presses the sharp edge of his blade against the rogue wizard's neck. Tyran warns, "Stop." He adds, "If you use mana, I'll kill you right now." While the companions watch in silence, Tyran keeps his weapon steady against the bound rogue wizard. Looking up at the group, the rogue wizard grits his teeth. The rogue wizard demands, "Who the hell are you people? How did you find this place?" Tyran replies, "We have our ways. So you're the burner, aren't you?" Without showing any hesitation, Tyran drives the tip of his dagger slightly into the rogue wizard's shoulder. The rogue wizard screams, "Ag!" Tyran demands answers while keeping a cold, indifferent expression on his face to break the man's resolve. Tyran says, "Answer quickly." He asks, "Why is a wandering noble burning the villagers of this area to death?" He adds, "Mercy is unnecessary for murderers." Trembling under the intense pressure, the bound rogue wizard desperately explains his twisted motives to his captor. The rogue wizard stammers, "G-God told me." He explains that if I burn the souls and flesh of those laden with sin, I can draw closer to God. Bison and the companions stand nearby, gasping in surprise. Bison and the others gasp, "What?" Cackling madly, the rogue wizard shakes his head and smiles widely against the cold stone floorboards. The rogue wizard cackles, "God taught me, and others the secret way to gain bloodline power." The rogue wizard's voice echoes off the damp stone walls, filling the cavern with his insane delusions. The rogue wizard shouts, "Just a few more times of burning humans to death." He adds, "And I'll gain the pyromaniac's bloodline." Bison stares down at the bound man with a mixture of disgust and pity in her eyes. Bison asks, "So you're just insane?" She adds, "To try to gain an inborn bloodline that way." Tyran listens to the madman's explanation. His expression remains unchanged upon hearing this reason, as he has heard more than once before about how to obtain bloodline power. Tyran silently ponders by committing a mass massacre for such a crazy reason. Previously, a muscular warrior wearing a checkered headband and a white shirt had smiled during their conversation. The warrior says, "Even ordinary people can gain that power by killing monsters." The warrior had confidently shared his experiences with a cheerful grin while Tyran listened to him. The warrior adds, "I've already seen several wizards do it." Returning to the present, Tyran looks down at the muttering rogue wizard with a grim realization. The rogue wizard mutters, "I need to burn them to death just a few more times." He adds, "And I too will gain the power of a pyromaniac." Tyran silently ponders. That's not just the ravings of a madman. Squeezing his fist tightly, Tyran feels a cold chill run down his spine as things connect. Tyran silently ponders, perhaps. Dim light filters through the cavern cracks, casting long shadows over the cold, silent stone floor. Tyran silently ponders. I've come to know the secret of this world. Damp cave air hangs heavy with the tang of blood. A sharp blade slices cleanly through the rogue wizard's throat, silencing his mad cackling once and for all. The lifeless body collapses onto the cracked stone floor, pooling in dark blood, while Bison and her companions watch in stunned silence. Gil trembles, clutching his mouth as he stares down at the pool of dark blood. "Berg," he groans. Bison frowns, asking what's wrong. "No, it's just," Gil stammers, averting his eyes. Struggling to suppress the rising nausea in his chest, Gil mutters, "Killing someone who's tied up and unable to resist. Feels like slaughtering livestock." Bison sighs deeply, completely unmoved by his sudden display of sympathy. "Don't say such foolish things," she retorts. "We all could have died here if things had gone wrong, and you're feeling sympathetic." As Bison continues her harsh lecture, Tyran quietly walks over to retrieve a dropped leather journal. "Besides, when I think about how many people that bastard killed," Bison adds, "dragging him away alive and making him suffer even more wouldn't be enough." Tyran reaches down with his bandaged hand, firmly grasping the worn book from the dirt. Crouching low on the cracked ground, Tyran flips open the worn pages to examine the contents. He silently ponders. The open pages reveal a detailed map marked with several ominous red crosses across the region. Tyran silently ponders. This should be enough evidence that he's the burner. Tyran's eyes widen as he flips the page, noticing a series of strange magical diagrams. He gasps. Sinister illustrations of burning flowers and glowing crystals cover the parchment in intricate, dark detail. Tyran silently ponders. These are combination formulas I've never seen before in my life. Did that voice claiming to be a god tell him this too? Bison steps closer, interrupting his deep concentration. "Tyran," she calls out. She gestures toward the lifeless body of the rogue wizard, ready to claim their hard-earned reward. "Let's absorb it," Bison says. Swirling torrents of vibrant green mana rise from the corpse, flowing directly into Tyran, Bison, and her companions. The dead wizard's bandaged foot rapidly shrivels and turns pale, as his remaining mana is completely drained. In a sunlit courtyard, a neat butler wearing a formal suit bows politely, presenting a wooden box. "Congratulations, Miss Bison," the butler says. "With you having taken down the burner, a new star has risen in House Carmine." Bison smiles modestly while Tyran stands quietly behind her. "You flatter me," Bison replies. A grand stone fountain flows gently in the center of the peaceful town square. "We're planning to travel around a bit more while hunting some monsters," Bison says. Turning to face Tyran, Bison extends her hand to offer him a heavy pouch of gold. "What about you, Tyran?" she asks. Tyran accepts the heavy coin bag, his large travel pack slung over his shoulder. "I'm planning to head straight to Abacha," Tyran replies. Leaning in slightly, Bison whispers, "As I mentioned yesterday, what that guy told us." "Yes, I won't go around blabbing about it elsewhere," Tyran replies quietly. "Whether it's true or not, it would cause great chaos." Bison and her group wave their hands cheerfully to bid farewell to Tyran. "All right then," Bison says, "see you next time." Tyran offers a warm, reassuring smile as he bids farewell to his new acquaintances. There's no need for me to mention, Tyran thinks to himself, that there isn't any definitive proof yet. Dry desert winds sweep across the endless golden dunes as Tyran walks steadily over the hot sand. Stopping to look up at the hazy sky, he snaps his fingers to test the air. He murmurs, "It's getting more humid." Tyran summons a tiny, flickering flame above his fingertips to measure his elemental control. Tyran silently ponders. The firepower has decreased, and mana consumption has increased. It'll be tricky to handle fire magic here. He easily conjures a large, swirling sphere of water in his palm alongside the small fire. He silently ponders, on the other hand. It's become easier to use water magic. Tyran continues his journey along the sandy coastline, his long dark cloak flapping in the wind. Standing atop a high cliff, he looks down at the sprawling port city nestled by the sea. Which means, Tyran ponders before murmuring, is this Abacha? Salty sea air, and the rowdy chatter of sailors fill the dimly lit wooden tavern near the docks. A patron eagerly gulps down his drink before turning to question his companions at the table. "Are you guys setting sail tomorrow?" he asks. The older sailor slams his mug onto the table while complaining about their dangerous shipping route. "That's right. We have to go to that dreadful Emerald Desert again," he shouts. "Those merfolk along the route keep throwing harpoons at us," another sailor replies. "And last time the bottom of the ship ended up looking like a honeycomb." The younger man listens with a worried expression as the veteran sailor continues his grim warnings. "Is it really that bad?" the young man asks. "And then there are those damn pirates," the veteran replies. A burly captain with a black eye patch, thick mustache, and messy dark hair rubs his forehead. "At this rate, we'll be paying out funeral expenses instead of sailors' wages," the captain sighs. "Damn it," he grumbles, "we're desperate for a skilled knight." Tyran steps up behind the scarred captain, catching his attention with a calm and polite inquiry. "Excuse me," Tyran says, "are you heading to the Emerald Desert?" The captain mutters, turning around. The captain looks back over his shoulder, eyeing the traveler with a deeply skeptical expression. "We're leaving tomorrow, but our ship isn't a cruise liner," the captain grunts. "We don't even have enough room for extra cargo right now. Taking on one person means leaving behind a barrel of booze, and that goes against my principles." Tyran says nothing, simply placing his hand gently upon the captain's glass of liquor. Confused by the sudden encounter, the captain growls, "Hey, what are you doing?" Before the captain can finish his sentence, Tyran gently taps his finger against the wooden mug, instantly freezing the liquid inside into a solid block of ice. The captain gasps in astonishment. Staring intently at the frozen block, the captain trembles in absolute disbelief. He stammers, "No way." The surrounding patrons quickly rise from their seats, bowing respectfully toward Tyran. The captain stammers, "Oh, I mean," he continues, "what is a great knight like you doing in such a humble place?" Tyran replies, "You can speak comfortably." He adds, "I am the one asking to be hired here." The captain leans forward over the table, his initial skepticism replaced by deep curiosity. He asks, "So, what brings a knight like you to this place?" Tyran replies, "I want you to let me board a ship heading to the Emerald Desert." Tyran places a hand over his chest, offering a proposal. "I am here as an employee, not a passenger," Tyran says. "If pirates or merfolk attack, I will help fend them off." He concludes, "I will use that as payment for my passage." The captain gestures toward his crew, explaining the poor state of their vessel. "As you have likely heard, our ship is quite destitute," the captain says. "Forget about a salary. We don't even have the means to provide a room befitting a knight's status." Tyran shakes his head calmly, dismissing the captain's concerns with an indifferent tone. "I don't care about the pay or the conditions," Tyran says. "My goal is simply to get to the Emerald Desert anyway." Slamming both hands onto the wooden table, the captain stands up abruptly with wide eyes. He shouts, really. The captain grins broadly, delighted to have secured such a powerful ally for free, especially one who is a formidable mage. The captain exclaims, "Then it's settled." He adds, "Join us at once." Gentle waves lap against the wooden hull of the massive ship as it sits docked at the sunny harbor. The captain shouts, "Welcome aboard, Sir Knight." Thick black smoke billows from the burning buildings of a besieged city under the crimson night sky. Crumbled stone walls and shattered weapons litter the scorched ground as the devastating fire continues to rage. Huffing heavily, a young soldier runs through the burning ruins while desperately clutching his weapon. A muscular purple-skinned dark elf with glowing yellow eyes roars fiercely as it lunges forward. "Kia!" the dark elf screams. The young soldier swiftly swings his blade, slicing through the attacking monster with a desperate effort. Another dark elf with long white hair leaps from the shadows, aiming a deadly strike. Gritting his teeth, the soldier raises his sword to parry the dark elf's powerful downward slash. Multiple guards join the fray, clashing their swords against the relentless wave of dark elves. Relentless hordes of dark elves surge through the smoke, while their glowing eyes burn with savage bloodlust. Sweating profusely amidst the chaos, a terrified guard looks up at the crackling yellow clouds above. "Oh no," the guard stammers at this rate. A colossal bolt of golden lightning suddenly tears through the crimson sky, completely illuminating the battlefield. The devastating electrical surge instantly vaporizes the charging monsters, turning them into ash within a second. "Kaya!" the dark elves scream. Sighing in utter relief, the guard surveys the charred remains of the enemies scattered across the dirt. The guard gasps. Mesa floats gracefully down from the smoky sky as the hot wind rustles through her dark hair. Bowing deeply before his savior, the trembling soldier expresses his gratitude while she looks at him calmly. "Thank you, my lady," the guard stammers. Mesa replies, "Rejoin your unit." The soldier quickly runs back toward the defensive lines while she prepares for the next wave. "Yes, ma'am," the guard shouts. A tall, muscular man with orange, slicked-back hair and a blue cloak floats down behind Mesa. He is Cadram Arabian, deputy commander of the conquest force under the Arabian family. Showing a stern expression, Cadram Arabian steps forward to assess the physical condition of Mesa. "Are you hurt anywhere?" Cadram Arabian asks. She shakes her head gently while Cadram Arabian warns her about the dangers of the battlefield. "No," Uncle Mesa replies. Cadram Arabian adds, "Don't push yourself too hard, because you are far more precious than the lives of a few knights." "I'm fine, this is nothing," Mesa says. "More importantly, how is the battle going?" Cadram Arabian replies, "Not bad. At this rate, this area will be reclaimed soon, though we haven't found the tunnels yet." She demands to be notified immediately once they locate the hidden underground passages of the enemy. "Let me know when you find them," she says. "I'll go there myself." With a sudden burst of magical energy, she shoots back into the sky to continue her hunt. Watching her depart, Cadram Arabian curls his lips into a cold, mocking sneer of pure disdain. "Tusk," Cadram Arabian mutters. He mutters quietly to himself, deeply criticizing the way his brother had raised the arrogant girl. "What an insolent girl," Cadram Arabian mutters. "My brother raised that child far too recklessly." She glides swiftly over the dense green canopy as Cadram Arabian's dark warning echoes in the wind. Cadram Arabian silently ponders. She'll end up just like her mother and younger brother at this rate. Vast, deep blue ocean waves crash violently against each other under a bright, clear sky. Somewhere out on the open sea, a sturdy wooden sailing ship glides smoothly across the open sea, heading toward the distant horizon. Standing silently by the ship's railing, Turan gazes out at the endless expanse of water. Gentle ocean breezes carry the scent of salt water across the deck. Turan thinks to himself, "Even if I arrive in the land of Zahar, I'm still at a loss as to how I'll find any clues." Several busy crew members sweep the deck and carry heavy wooden crates across the ship. He's silently pondering, without even knowing what my father's status is. There's no telling what might happen if I just barge into Zahar. A simple paper drawing of a smiling, dark-haired woman rests on the table. Turan ponders, "The only clues I have are a few heirlooms and a portrait of my mother. I wonder how long it will take to find information about her with just these." Stepping up from behind, the captain places a heavy hand on Turan's shoulder. The captain laughs heartily and says, "Hey, Sir Knight." He continues, "If you keep staring like that, you'll burn a hole in the seabed. What's got you so deep in thought?" Turan turns his head slightly and offers a gentle smile to the boisterous captain. "I was just thinking about how vast the ocean is," Turan says. The captain replies, "It's truly vast, incredibly immense." Seagulls glide gracefully through the bright sky above the wooden ship as it cuts through the waves. Looking out into the distance, the captain says, "I've heard that landfolk get nauseous just by looking at such vastness. Are you suffering from seasickness?" Turan replies, "I'm fine." The captain leans closer and gestures with his hand while speaking to his companion. "Oh, by the way," the captain says, "I heard you're even learning seafaring from our boatswain. A noble Sir Knight learning everything from tying ropes to handling the sails. He seemed quite excited that you're willing to learn." Turan looks back at the captain, his expression filled with genuine curiosity about the sea. "I just thought it'd be good for me to have that knowledge," Turan says, "and it's more interesting than I thought." A loud shout echoes from the lower deck, instantly drawing the attention of the crew. "It's mealtime," a crewman shouts. The captain claps his hands together vigorously to gather the remaining sailors on deck. "Now, let's eat before we work. Everyone to the dining hall," the captain shouts. Bandaged hands carefully hold a simple plate containing sliced potatoes and a portion of cabbage. A middle-aged crewman with gray hair tied in a top-knot bun and a thick beard sits beside Turan. "It's not as good as food on land," the crewman says, chewing his food, "but it's a relief they didn't leave out this pickled cabbage, because if it weren't for this, we all would have died of gum disease long ago." Turan asks, "Gum disease?" The bearded crewman gestures with his fork while explaining the harsh realities of sea life. "Yes, it's a disease where your gums bleed and you die," the crewman says, "but you get better if you eat sour food. Fruit spoils quickly, so pickled cabbage is the best, though it tastes like crap." "Huh." Tyran listens intently to the explanation, deeply intrigued by this practical piece of survival knowledge. That's fascinating. How did you come to know such a thing? Tyran asks. The crewman replies, well, I'm sure someone figured it out at some point and it just spread. The two men sit together in the quiet dining cabin as the ship sways gently. I heard that before that was discovered, the crewman says, people used to eat merfolk raw. A sudden frantic shout from the deck breaks the peaceful atmosphere inside the dining cabin. A ship, 2 o'clock ahead, a medium-sized vessel, a lookout shouts. The lookout peers through a long brass telescope while standing high up in the crow's nest. What? Is it pirates? A sailor shouts from below. I don't know, the lookout replies. A lone white-sailed vessel appears in the distance under the bright blue sky. There's no house crest flying on it, the lookout shouts. The bearded crewman steps back onto the deck and narrows his eyes at the horizon. I have a feeling they're pirates, the crewman says grimly. It's such a nice day without any rain, things were going way too smoothly, he grumbles. Sunlight filters through the wooden hatches as anxious sailors scramble to pull heavy weapons from storage barrels. First, prepare for battle, the captain shouts. With a grim expression, the bearded crewman stands beside the captain as the ship sways gently. He asks, what should we do, Captain? Shall we lose them? The captain replies, they're a bit faster, so if they chase us for long, we might get caught. If the wind is in our favor, we could dock at a nearby island before they catch us. Turning away from his telescope, as if having considered another plan, the captain asks Tyran in a calm tone, will you be all right? Tyran offers a calm smile, completely unfazed by the approaching threat of the pirate vessel. As long as there are no knights or nobles inside, Tyran replies, there's no problem. Nodding slowly, the captain turns back to his men and raises his hand to command them. Very well, the captain says, turn the ship, we're engaging. A sailor cheers, long live the knight. Another shouts, kill them all. The pirate vessel draws close as rowdy bandits wave their cutlasses and jeer across the water. You three, stop the ship. Then I'll spare your lives, a pirate shouts. Standing at the wooden railing, Tyran calmly observes the shouting bandits while the crew gathers behind him. Will they really spare us if we surrender? Tyran asks. The bearded crewman replies sarcastically, does having our legs cut off and being thrown into the sea count as being spared? With a quiet sigh, Tyran presses his boot firmly against the wooden deck to gather strength. Just as I thought, Tyran murmurs. Launching himself forward, he leaps gracefully across the gap between the two ships, heading straight for the enemy deck. He lands softly on the wooden planks, while the remaining bandits recoil in sudden shock. Gripping their weapons tightly, the pirates stare in startled silence at the lone intruder, their eyes wide with disbelief. What is this? One of the pirates stammers. The water rapidly converges into sharp, jagged aquatic prisons, surrounding the deck and trapping the panicked bandits. What are you doing? The pirate captain screams. Kill him right in. The deadly frozen projectiles pierce through the enemies, leaving them screaming in agony on the deck. Observing a few of the men falling, he speaks quietly with a cold smile playing across his face. Tyran whispers, if they are that kind of people, then there is no need to go easy on them, he says. Dark clouds gather overhead as Tyran raises his glowing hand, unleashing a surge of magic that signals a grim fate for the pirates. Salty sea breezes howl across the ocean. Tyran stands calmly amidst several fallen pirates on the blood-stained deck. With a desperate roar, a rough pirate leader with a headband tries to rally his terrified crew. The pirate leader shouts, "Don't be scared, you punks." He adds, "If we don't kill him, we're the ones who will die anyway." Desperately seeking survival, the remaining bandits charge forward from all sides to overwhelm Tyran. The pirates scream, "Ah!" Sensing their approach, he focuses his mana and prepares to unleash a devastating counterattack. A massive torrent of seawater suddenly surges upward, forming a swirling vortex around the deck. Tyran swings his newly formed ice blade, easily slicing through the weapon of the first attacker. With a swift and fluid motion, he cuts down another opponent who lunges from his side. Another pirate rushes forward over his fallen comrade, shouting wildly to maintain their desperate momentum. The pirate shouts, "Don't let up, keep attacking." Tyran raises his frozen blades, effortlessly blocking a coordinated strike from two charging enemies. Spinning on his heel, he unleashes a sweeping wave of water that knocks back several opponents. Tyran thrusts his blade forward, piercing through a charging bandit with absolute precision. He senses a sudden threat from behind and reacts instantly to the incoming danger. Whirling around, Tyran delivers a devastating slash that cleaves through the spearman's chest. A wet, bandaged hand suddenly grips the wooden railing from the side of the sailing vessel. He reacts instantly, thrusting his ice blade through the chest of the climbing attacker. The pirate groans, "Gah!" Another enemy leaps from the rigging, swinging a heavy mace directly toward Tyran's head. Tyran slides across the damp deck, easily evading the heavy blow as wood splinters behind him. Spinning gracefully through the chaotic fray, Tyran delivers a lethal slash that splits his opponent apart. The pirate groans, "Gah!" Sharp shards of ice erupt from the frozen deck and pierce through the next bandit's back. The pirate screams, "Ag!" The defeated pirate collapses heavily onto the blood-stained wood as the frozen spikes hold him down. Sneaking up from behind, a desperate pirate grabs Tyran in a chokehold and presses a dagger against his throat. The pirate yells, "Die!" The sharp metal blade collides with Tyran's neck, but fails to leave even a single scratch. Encouraged by the sudden restraint, the remaining bandits charge forward to pierce Tyran with their swords. A pirate shouts there, "Now's the chance. Kill him." With a look of absolute horror, the attacking bandit realizes his weapon cannot pierce the skin. Tyran tilts his head slightly, completely unfazed by the weapon pressed firmly against his bare throat. Tyran murmurs, "Huh." Trembling with fear, the pirate struggles to push his dagger deeper against Tyran's impenetrable defensive barrier. The blade's not going in, the pirate stammers. Without turning around, Tyran summons sharp ice spikes that instantly impale his captor from behind. Crimson blood sprays across the wooden deck as the freezing spikes pierce through the surrounding attackers. Leaping gracefully into the air, he sweeps his frozen blade to deliver a final, decisive strike. The devastating wave of water shears through the remaining bandits, leaving them lifeless on the deck. Agonizing screams echo through the rigging as the final remnants of the pirate crew are eliminated. The pirates scream, another pirate wails, "Ayaha!" A final bandit groans, "Gah!" Standing calmly amidst the silent carnage, Tyran dispels his frozen weapon as the sea breeze cools. Dozens of fallen bandits litter the wooden deck, painting the entire vessel in a grim crimson. Heavy ropes secure the two vessels together, allowing the merchant crew to board the quiet pirate ship. Walking across the wooden plank, the captain laughs heartily at the unbelievable scene of total victory. The captain laughs, he adds, "Wow, you really wiped them all out." Looking at Tyran, who is covered in blood, the boisterous captain continues to tease his new ally. "Do you happen to work as a cleaner on the side?" the captain asks. He jokes, "If you clean up this neatly, our crew won't have anything left to do." Raising their weapons high, the ecstatic sailors cheer wildly to celebrate their sudden and miraculous survival. A sailor cheers, "That was truly amazing. Long live the knight." The crew shouts, "Woo-woo." Another sailor yells, "You bastards, serves you right." Salty sea breezes carry the tang of blood as a brown-haired sailor gestures toward Tyran. "But Sir Knight, how about going to see the physician first?" the sailor asks. Smiling warmly, Tyran lowers his glowing frozen blade and gently shakes his head. "No need to worry, I'm not hurt anywhere," he says. He adds, "This is all the pirate's blood." Gentle ocean waves lap against the hulls of the two ships sailing side by side. "Ha ha! Tyran, I've searched every nook and cranny of those guys' ships," the captain laughs from the cabin. Soft golden lantern light illuminates the cozy wooden cabin as the captain unrolls a map for Tyran. "Turns out, that ship was a merchant vessel that went missing in a botcher a few years ago," the captain explains. He adds, "It seems the pirates captured it, gave it a new coat of paint, and used it themselves." He grumbles, "It's just like those lowlifes to do that." Leaning forward over the polished desk, the captain gestures toward the unrolled parchment. "What do you plan to do?" the captain asks. He adds, "Since you finished the fight all by yourself, the ownership of that item belongs entirely to you, Tyran." Tyran blinks in surprise as the unexpected news of his new ownership sinks in. "Congratulations, you become a new ship owner," the captain barks. Tyran mutters. Resting his chin on his hand, Tyran considers the options presented by his companion. "What is usually done in this case?" Tyran asks. "Well, there are several ways," the captain replies. The captain winks his single eye and smiles while explaining the tedious bureaucratic process. "You could take it back to Abacha and say, 'Original owner, I found it,'" the captain says. He adds, "Then bow your head while asking for a reward." He warns, of course, between the paperwork and catering to the bureaucrats, a month or two will fly by. Soft golden light flickers across the wooden cabin walls as the captain continues speaking. Another way is to go to the Emerald Desert and sell it, but, the captain says, he adds, in my opinion, it's best to just sell it at the Northern Sea Islands along our way. The captain presses his thick finger against a small island marked on the map. That neighborhood is always desperate for ships, the captain says. He adds, the rule is to sell to the one who needs it to get the highest price. Outside on the deck, several busy crewmen scrub the dark crimson stains off the wood. However, to move a ship of that size, we'll need to mobilize quite a few of my crewmen. The captain notes. It's not like I can sail that ship all by myself anyway, Tyran replies. He adds, if I use people, I should pay the price. 2 sailors heave a lifeless pirate body over the wooden railing into the sea. Ha, you're someone who understands, the captain laughs. He adds, in that case, as a service fee for my boys, if you could. Give us 10% on the front. Raising 2 fingers, Tyran offers a much more generous deal to his surprised ally. Could I ask you to handle everything up to the sale for 20%? Tyran asks. The captain bursts into boisterous laughter and clenches his fist with pure delight. Ha, of course. The captain roars. He adds, I know quite a few people over there, so I'll make sure we get a very good price. Suddenly a panicked sailor slams the wooden door open and shouts breathlessly into the cabin. Captain, the sailor screams. He gasps, a mermaid. It's a mermaid. Standing up abruptly, the captain stares at the messenger with wide, disbelieving eyes. What? The captain barks. He demands now even mermaids are attacking us. The messenger shakes his hands frantically to clarify his confusing words to the leaders. And no, that's not it. The sailor stammers. He adds, the pirates were keeping a mermaid captive. Tyran listens quietly while the captain leans forward to hear the rest of the report. Under the deck, the sailor shouts. Outside, several crewmen continue scrubbing the blood-soaked planks as the sun begins to set. Tyran walks alongside the captain and the bearded crewman down a dimly lit corridor. So there's an important guest on board? Tyran asks. Yes, I haven't gone in yet either. I just received the report, the captain replies. Good job, Tyran says. Dim lantern light flickers against the damp wooden walls of the ship's lower deck corridors. Faint creaking sounds echo from the hull as the vessel sways gently on the calm waves. Walking down the narrow hallway, the captain gestures over his shoulder to invite his companion along. Tyran, would you like to go see the important guest, the captain asks. Tyran replies, sure. The 2 men descend the creaking wooden stairs into the dark cargo hold filled with heavy crates. By the way, do mermaids sell for a high price? Tyran asks. The captain replies, odd if it's a pretty female mermaid. In the warm waters of the mainland, wealthy nobles often seek out rare and exotic sea creatures. Those rich lords on the mainland who have nothing but money and bones, the captain explains, can't get enough of mysterious things. They go absolutely crazy for them. Reaching the bottom of the stairs, Tyran steps through a heavy wooden door into a secluded cabin. It's this way, the captain says. Tyran peers into the dimly lit room and scans the floor to locate their mysterious captive. A blue-skinned male mermaid with short dark hair and pointed ears sits tightly bound on the floorboards. The captain crosses his arms and sighs in disappointment upon inspecting the bound creature on the floor. Ho! The captain mutters, it's a shame, but it's a male. Shaking his head, the captain explains the lack of market demand for male specimens to Tyran. Tusk. This one will go for a pittance. The captain grumbles, those rich lords have no interest in male mermaids. Well, unless it's a legendary royal who can transform into a fish. Arment glares up at them and shouts in fury, revealing his royal identity to the humans. How insolent! Male, you say? Arment screams. I am Arment, the 47th Prince of North Estadale. Show some respect, you lowly humans of the land. Tyran turns to his companion to discuss the validity of the dramatic claims made by Arment. Is he saying he's royalty? The captain asks. Tyran replies, it seems so. Maybe he thinks that's the only way we'll keep him alive and sell him, the captain whispers, so he might just be bluffing. Bending down to look closely, the captain questions Arment about his supposed magical ability to transform. So can you transform into a fish, mermaid prince, the captain asks. Arment stammers, I cannot. Why? The captain asks. Arment struggles against his tight ropes and explains the physical limitations of his current dry environment. That's because I'm being restrained like this and out of water. Arment screams. I must enter the sea in a perfect state to be able to transform. The captain crosses his arms, completely unconvinced by Arment's explanation. He's playing tricks to try and escape, the captain says. Looking down at Armand, Tyran asks a calm question about the dietary habits of his species. "What will you do?" the captain asks. Tyran asks, "I heard mermaids eat humans quite often." "Yes," the captain replies. Tyran looks down with a cold expression, his voice turning completely devoid of any warmth or mercy. "Then I'll kill him," Tyran says, "since he's not worth any money anyway." Armand trembles in sheer terror as the captain ponders the financial risks of releasing their prisoner. It would be a jackpot if what he said was true, but... The captain mutters, "Well, if we believe him and release him into the sea and he just runs away, we'll just look like fools." Tyran raises his hand, channeling a swirling orb of blue water magic directly above Armand's head. Armand recoils in absolute panic, his voice cracking as he desperately begs Tyran to stop the spell. Stop! How dare you!" Armand screams. Armand desperately pleads his innocence to save his own life as he looks up at Tyran. "I've never eaten a human in my life." Armand wails, "I never even intended to." Tyran's eye widens slightly as he stares down at the trembling captive. Gritting his teeth in desperation, the blue-skinned captive sweats profusely under the intense gaze of his captors. "If you..." the captive mutters, his voice trailing off into a tense silence. Inside the cargo hold, Tyran stands before a bound merfolk prince with short dark hair and pointed ears. "If you spare me, I'll give you treasure." The captive screams, pleading desperately treasure. Intrigued by the sudden offer, Tyran looks down at the shivering captive with a calm, questioning gaze. "Treasure?" Tyran asks, tilting his head slightly. "Yes, treasure," the prince replies, nodding eagerly. A radiant, golden-haired goddess with large, feathered wings appears in a brilliant vision of divine light. "The things left behind by the Freyan gods you worship," the captive shouts. In the glowing illustration, ancient priests raise their hands toward 3 legendary weapons floating in the sky. Vast golden sunlight paints the tranquil ocean, as a lonely rocky island sits amidst the shimmering waves. Warm evening light bathes the bustling harbor town, where wooden ships lie docked along the stone piers. Cheerful sailors rush down the wooden gangplank, celebrating their safe arrival after a long, perilous journey. "Ha ha! Land!" One sailor cheers while another shouts, "Let's have a real drink today." Walking along the ship's deck, the captain turns to Tyran to ask about his final decision. "So, have you reached a conclusion?" the captain asks quietly. Tyran looks back with a calm expression, planning his next move to secure the legendary treasure. "Yes," Tyran replies, "fortunately, it doesn't seem to be very far from here." He adds, "So I'll try to head there and come back tonight." Cool blue shadows stretch across the harbor as a small wooden rowboat glides away from the pier. Sitting in the rowing boat, Tyran calmly secures the heavy metal chains around the captive's wrists. What are these chains for?" the prince stammers, protesting loudly. "Do you think I'll run away?" He adds, "I am a prince. I keep my promises." Clenching his bound hands tightly, the young prince seeks final reassurance from his silent captor. "Why you?" the captive whispers, looking up anxiously. "You'll really let me go if the treasure is actually there, right?" Tyran continues to row the boat forward, offering a simple, reassuring nod to the anxious prince. "Yes," Tyran replies calmly. The rowboat cuts through the deep blue water as the captive turns away with a stubborn pout. "HMPH," the prince mutters, "don't blame me if you're disappointed when you see it." He grumbles, since it's Freyan treasure, it's only counted as amazing by the standards of you land people. Soft moonlight filters through the scattered clouds, casting a gentle glow over the vast, dark night sky. "I get it," Tyran says quietly, "so just lead the way." Cool night air hangs over the vast ocean as the full moon illuminates the dark clouds. While rowing the small wooden boat, Tyran keeps his gaze fixed on the shimmering horizon. "I get it, so just lead the way." Gentle waves splash against the hull as Armand guides them through the dark, open waters. "We're finally here." A desolate rocky island looms in the distance under the bright glow of the moon. "Is it over there?" Tyran asks. Armani nods in agreement. "That's right," he replies. Leaning over the side of the vessel, Tyran dips his bandaged fingers into the cold seawater. "Good." Then just a moment. He closes his eyes and channels his mana, conjuring a glowing blue orb of water magic. Search. The magical pulse spreads deep beneath the surface, scanning the marine life swimming in the dark. Target merfolk. After confirming the area is safe, he lets out a quiet sigh of relief and relaxes. Tyran silently ponders, "At least he didn't lead me to a merfolk stronghold." Dark cliffs tower over the quiet beach where the dense forest meets the crashing ocean waves. The small rowboat slides smoothly onto the sandy shore of the mysterious, fog-shrouded island. Tyran leads the chained Armani, quickening his pace as they venture deeper into the dark, dense forest. It's definitely around here, Armani stammers. He then insists firmly, no, it is right around here, I remember it clearly. He suddenly stops, pointing ahead with excitement. Found it, Armani cries out. Tyran calmly looks in the direction of his finger, where a mystical light softly reflects through the leaves. It's right here, Armani exclaims. A beautiful glowing pool of water sits nestled at the base of a high stone cliff. Here? Tyran asks. Standing at the edge of the glowing pool, Tyran turns to question Armani. It's not that deep, right? Tyran asks. Armani replies nonchalantly, yeah, it's only about 300 meters. Tyran falls silent, completely speechless at the merman's casual response. Is something wrong? Armani asks, looking bewildered. Without saying a word, Tyran quietly uses a rope to bind Armani tightly to a nearby ancient tree. What are you doing? Armani screams in panic. Let me go! Are you tying me up again? He shrieks, are you doing this because you think I'll run away? Armani struggles in vain, his voice trembling with fear as he imagines the worst-case scenario. If you go down there and die, I'll be left to starve to death. Armani screams. Turning away calmly, Tyran prepares to dive into the glowing water to search for the treasure. Then you'd better hope that doesn't happen, for both our sakes. He stands at the edge of the pool, his reflection shimmering alongside the fish swimming below. Taking a deep breath of the crisp night air, Tyran prepares himself for the plunge. Cool blue water stretches endlessly into the dark abyss. As bubbles rise toward the shimmering surface, Tyran glides effortlessly through the dark water, descending deeper into the silent abyss of the cavern. He opens his eyes underwater to scan the dark depths for any sign of the hidden treasure. Tyran silently ponders, let's see. Tyran kicks his legs and dives further down, while his long hair trails behind him in the current. He reaches the rocky seabed, where strange glowing plants illuminate the dark underwater ruins. Tyran silently ponders, now I can see a bit. Tyran looks around the quiet cavern, searching for the ancient Freyan artifacts mentioned by the mermaid prince. He stops suddenly as a massive shadow looms over the glowing rocks directly in front of him. Tyran gasps in shock. A giant blue-scaled sea serpent with glowing yellow eyes coils tightly around a massive stone pillar. Tyran stares in utter amazement at the colossal beast, realizing the true danger of this pool. Following the serpent's body upward, he spots something. Found it, Tyran mutters to himself. A mysterious knight, wearing dark plate armor, sits calmly atop the massive head of the sea serpent. Tyran gasps for air as bubbles escape his mouth. Completely stunned by the unexpected underwater guardian, he quickly covers his mouth to prevent the remaining air from escaping his lungs. Tyran maintains his position, while the armored guardian watches him with a cold, silent gaze. Both the great serpent and the mystical warrior had long since turned into motionless stone statues, resting silently on the seabed for what must have been ages. Tyran observes them intently, stepping closer to take in every detail. The mysterious warrior appeared to have fallen to a fatal wound in the center of his chest. It seemed a venomous fang from the serpent had pierced straight through him, yet his face remained perfectly preserved, his eyes still wide and filled with unwavering resolve. Deep beneath the surface, the glowing blue water remains absolutely still within the silent underwater cavern. Tyran swims closer to inspect the preserved knight's body clad in dark armor. Tyran silently ponders, is this being truly one of the Freyans? Tyran silently ponders, the body is intact without even becoming a wraith. Reaching out his hand, Tyran notices a golden compass hanging from the knight's waist. Back on the surface, the forest remains shrouded in the silence of the night. Armani remains tightly bound to the tree trunk, waiting anxiously by the edge of the glowing pool. Suddenly, Tyran breaks through the water's surface, taking a deep breath of air before wading onto the shore. Armani hastily strains forward, his eyes wide with anticipation as he questions the youth. Armani stammers, did you find it? Did you? Wading out of the pool, Tyran shakes the water from his long hair. Yes. He stares intently at the ancient gold compass, watching a droplet of water run down his cheek. Suddenly, he notices a strange blue light emanating from the center of Armani's chest. Swirling blue energy glows brightly around Armani, causing his pointed ears to light up with a brilliant radiance. Tyran carefully examines the glowing compass in his palm, quickly realizing its true power. Tyran silently ponders, as I thought, it allows me to sense the presence of living energy. With a swift, decisive motion, Tyran channels his water magic to cleanly sever the heavy iron chains binding Armani. Armani looks down at his freed hands in utter disbelief, gently rubbing his wrists where the marks of the chains still linger. Stepping backward, Armani watches Tyran pick up his travel pack from the grass. Armani mutters, "I didn't think you'd let me go so easily. I thought you'd just take this and sell me off again." Tyran replies, "I made a promise." Tyran turns to walk away, his voice calm as he speaks. Tyran says, "I always settle my debts. Since you guided me without deceiving me, I'm simply keeping my word." Armani shouts after him, "Thank you. You're a kind demon. If we ever go to war with humans, I'll tell my father not to touch you." Pulling his high collar up, Tyran dismisses the grand promise with a quiet sigh. "Stop talking nonsense." Armani leaps into the glowing pool, creating a loud splash as he dives deep down. A flash of blue light erupts, and immediately after, Armani transforms into a shark and swims away. Tyran watches the glowing ripples fade, his expression thoughtful as he stands on the shore. Tyran silently ponders, he wasn't lying about being royalty, huh? Bright morning sunlight illuminates the bustling harbor town, where a massive wooden ship sits docked. Gentle waves lap against the pier as the crew prepares for their next voyage. The morning sun beats down on the wooden deck where several whipped sailors nurse their bloody backs. "It hurts like hell. Put some medicine on me." Gah. Standing tall with a stern expression, the first mate aggressively swings a thick leather whip through the air. The old first mate shouts now, "Everyone, repeat after me." He bellows again, "We will not be late." Stepping out of the wooden cabin, Tyran calmly observes the harsh disciplinary action taking place on the deck. The first mate roars insubordination, means death. Tyran asks, "What's all this about?" A nearby sailor says, "Oh, are you awake?" He gestures toward the bleeding crewmen and explains the reason for their severe punishment. The man says, "They're punishing the guys who crawled in late last night. Not only were they late, they even caused a ruckus at the harbor tavern. This is what they get for taking the captain's warning lightly." Tyran watches the scene in silence, his mind focused on a strange phenomenon occurring before his eyes. Tyran silently ponders. Through the power of the golden compass, Tyran perceives vibrant colored flames radiating from the sailors' bodies. The first mate's flame is a deep blue, while those of the sailors undergoing punishment burn in shades of blue and red. The glowing energy slowly leaks from their open wounds, revealing the fragile state of their physical vitality. Tyran silently ponders, when they're wounded, I can visually see their life force draining away. Bright morning light illuminates the stone-paved streets of the harbor town as townsfolk go about their daily routines. Tyran walks quickly through the busy marketplace to search for their missing leader. Tyran asks, "Where's the captain?" The sailor replies he went down to the island, said he was going to find someone to buy the ship. Inside the dimly lit tavern, warm golden light filters through the windows, casting long shadows across the floor. The captain sits at a wooden table, deep in conversation with a mysterious buyer wearing a dark coat. Tyran approaches the table with a calm stride, his presence immediately drawing the attention of both men. "You're here, Tyran," the captain calls out. Tyran asks, "How did the deal go?" The captain gestures toward the man sitting opposite him, introducing Captain Samuel. Let me introduce you first," the captain says. "This is Captain Samuel, who has agreed to buy the ship. One of us is missing an eye and the other is missing a hand, so it's a fair match." "Pleasure to meet you," Captain Samuel says. The captain adds 1,000 Zahar gold coins. We agreed on a lump sum payment. Tyran takes a seat opposite the two captains, his calm demeanor contrasting sharply with the lively atmosphere of the tavern. "Not bad," Tyran says, "but there's one problem." The captain asks a problem. Tyran explains his concerns regarding the payment method, preferring something much more practical for his upcoming journey. "It's inconvenient to carry around gold coins. Could I perhaps receive magic tools or holy relics of equivalent value?" Captain Samuel shakes his head and explains that such rare items are impossible to find in this port. "Such precious items aren't found in a place like this. You'll have to go to Kamad." Kamad. Captain Samuel describes the distant city of Kamad, where a powerful family of tamers rules the territory. It's the second city of the Zahar territory. House Dormant, who rules there, is of a tamer bloodline. You should get a monster there since you'll have plenty of money. Tyran considers the tamer's city, imagining how a loyal beast could assist him during his long travels. Tyran silently ponders, a tamer. Tyran silently ponders, a beast that understands speech would be helpful on the journey. Under a vast blue sky, the massive merchant vessel glides smoothly across the shimmering waves of the open ocean. The ship cuts through the deep water, leaving a trail of white foam behind as it sails forward. Several sailors work on the sunny deck, their voices filled with excitement over their sudden financial fortune. This voyage is a real treat. The pirates turned into money bags. Isn't this all thanks to serving a descendant of God's people? A sudden shout from the lookout draws the attention of the crew to the changing weather ahead. Dark clouds ahead. Heavy gray clouds rapidly swallow the blue sky, casting a dark, ominous shadow over the turbulent ocean. The vessel plunges into the dark, stormy waters while the wind begins to howl fiercely around them. It's a storm. Everyone get ready. Torrential rain pours from the pitch-black sky as massive waves crash violently against the wooden hull. Amidst the howling wind, the first mate screams orders to the panicked crew. Hurry, furl the sails, he bellows, move the cargo inside, quickly. While struggling to secure the heavy wooden chest, the sailors brace themselves against the slippery deck. If you don't want to be fish food, give it your all. The violent impact throws several helpless crewmen off the rigging and directly into the churning ocean. Og, hold on tight. No. A sudden blue magical aura envelops the falling sailor, halting his descent just above the waves. Tyran stands firmly on the wet deck and raises his glowing hand to manipulate his water magic. With a precise gesture, Tyran safely lowers the rescued crewmen and cargo back onto the deck. This way, the terrified sailor quickly scrambles to his feet, running toward the safety of the lower cabins. Get below deck now, Tyran orders. Why, yes, sir, the sailor stammers. With swift and practiced movements, Tyran uses his magic to quickly furl the sails, taking control of the ship and securing everything tightly. The magical ropes wrap tightly around the loose sails, securing them firmly against the raging storm. The crates rolling wildly across the deck are quickly transported down into the cargo hold by Tyran's magic. The sturdy vessel successfully navigates through the towering waves as thunder rumbles loudly across the sky. Everyone retreat. Dim lantern light flickers against the damp wooden walls of the quiet cargo hold. Tyran steps through the wooden doorway, immediately drawing the deep gratitude of the relieved crewmen. One sailor sighs in relief. Thank you, sir, the others cry out. Oh God, thank you so much. Tyran gently brushes his wet hair back and addresses the shivering men with a warm smile. Are you hurt? No, I'm fine. Then that's enough. Wringing out his soaked coat, the captain approaches Tyran to express his sincere appreciation. Thank you, Tyran, the captain says. If we hadn't furled the sails quickly, we would have been in serious trouble. Tyran asks, can we withstand this storm? The captain looks back at his resting crew, his expression turning serious as the ship sways gently. We have to trust the ship and the helmsman, the captain says. More importantly, his voice trails off. Cold drafts seep through the wooden planks of the cargo hold, while the sailors shiver under their blankets. Watching the freezing crewmen suffer, Tyran quietly steps forward to offer a solution. Tyran silently ponders. He raises his hand to draw the attention of the freezing men lying on the wooden floorboards. Tyran calls out, everyone, gather in a circle around me. The captain raises his hand in worry, fearing the consequences of using fire magic inside a wooden ship. The captain stammers, Tyran, are you planning to use fire magic on a wooden ship like this? That's too dangerous. Tyran replies, I will make sure the flame does not spread. With a swift movement, Tyran snaps his bandaged fingers to ignite his magical energy. A massive sphere of warm, golden fire instantly materializes above Tyran's outstretched palms, illuminating the dark room. He gently guides the swirling flames upward, letting the heat disperse evenly across the ceiling. A golden warmth fills the entire cargo hold, completely banishing the damp chill without scorching a single wooden plank. The captain stammers, unbelievable. I have never witnessed magic this sophisticated. Feeling the sudden heat, the shivering sailors smile as the golden light thaws their freezing bodies. It's warm. The captain stares in absolute awe, suddenly remembering an ancient legend from his childhood. Now I finally understand. The instructions those overbearing old-timers used to say until their breath ran out. The crewmen gather around Tyran, basking in the divine warmth of his gentle flame. The captain continues, humans shall always serve the wizards. The captain adds, and the wizard shall reign over humans while also protecting them. Soft golden embers drift through the quiet hold as the storm rages harmlessly outside the wooden hull. Bright desert sunlight bathes the coastal city of Comad, where white stone buildings line the shimmering blue sea. The largest city in the northern Emerald Desert, Comad, massive wooden ships dock along the stone piers, while busy laborers unload heavy cargo crates under the clear blue sky. Standing on the wooden dock, the captain offers a heavy pouch of gold coins. "It's a small amount, but please take this as your hiring fee," the captain says. Tyran gasps, he shakes his head and says, "This is too much, as we were also helping each other out to begin with." The captain smiles warmly. "The crew all chipped in a little from the proceeds of selling the pirate ship," he explains. "If you don't accept it, God will be angry with us." Tyran packs the gold coins into his travel bag. "I understand," he says. "If we are destined to meet again, I'll treat you to a proper meal." The captain bows respectfully. "It would be our honor," he replies. A loud shout echoes from the ship's deck. Waving their arms wildly, the sailors yell Sir Knight. Tyran turns to look back at the departing vessel as the ecstatic crew waves from the railing. "We'll wish you." "Sir Knight," they shout in unison. "Thank you," another yells. "We won't forget you," they cheer together. Standing firmly on the deck, the captain places his hand over his heart, offering a silent salute of deep respect and reverence. Tyran smiles warmly and turns away, ready to begin his new journey across the sun-drenched desert city. Hot desert winds sweep through the bustling streets of Comad, where merchants and camels crowd the sandy pathways. Tyran walks calmly through the lively marketplace, blending seamlessly into the crowd of travelers and local merchants. He stops abruptly in the middle of the street as a sudden realization catches his attention. Tyran gasps silently. Through the power of his golden compass, Tyran perceives the glowing blue life forces radiating from the surrounding citizens. Among them, one individual possesses a power far greater than the rest. A desert guard stands nearby, clad in light armor, a beige turban, and a curved sword at his waist. He approaches the armored guard from behind and speaks in a polite yet firm tone. "Excuse me," Tyran says quietly. Tyran unleashes a wave of magical pressure that instantly startles and terrifies the guard. Gasping in absolute horror, the guard trembles as Tyran asks, "Are you a knight of House Dermin?" The terrified guard immediately bows his head in deep respect. Sweating profusely, he stammers, "Why, yes, my lord." He quickly adds, "At your command." Tyran looks down with a calm expression, his voice remaining cool and steady in the desert heat. "I am Tyran from Abacha," he says. "I wish to see the house head." Tall palm trees frame the grand stone pathway, leading to a magnificent palace crowned with a golden dome. Inside the grand palace hall, warm golden light illuminates the lavish reception room. Tyran adjusts his clean white robe while sitting on a plush sofa. A deep, warm voice echoes from across the room. "It suits you well," the voice says. A man with elaborately braided hair stands before him, possessing a formidable magical aura that cannot be underestimated, seemingly a knight of the house. It is Cal Dermin, a muscular man with tribal tattoos and long black hair who gestures politely. "Pleased to meet you," he says. "I am Cal Dermin." Cal Dermin tilts his head slightly and studies his guest with a sharp, calculating gaze. Cal Dermin mutters. Tyran blinks in quiet confusion, wondering what could have possibly caught the attention of this powerful househead. Resting his hands on his knees, Cal Dermin breaks the silence with a direct question. "So what is your name and house?" Cal Dermin asks. "Tyran Brahms. I am of a fallen guardian bloodline," Tyran replies. Tyran explains his purpose while Cal Dermin stands up from the sofa to summon assistance. "I heard rumors and came to buy a monster," Tyran says. Cal Dermin nods. "Very well. I'll have my daughter guide you." Tyran hesitates for a moment before asking a personal question that has been lingering in his mind. Also, by any chance have you seen someone who looks like me?" Tyran asks. "What?" Cal Dermin replies. Tyran asks curiously, "When you saw me earlier, you seemed to hesitate." Cal Dermin quickly replies, "No, it's nothing." Cal Dermin pauses at the doorway and offers a brief explanation before leaving the room. "I just thought you looked a bit like someone I know," Cal Dermin says. Walking down a spacious corridor, Tyran follows Cal Dermin's daughter, a young woman wearing a yellow dress. "You say you're a fallen noble, but you seem to have quite a bit of money," she says. She looks back at him and adds, "Seeing how you came to House Dermin to purchase a magical beast makes that quite obvious." She strikes up a conversation while Tyran remains silent, lost in his own deep thoughts. "Is it because a guardian bloodline is perfect for the mercenary life?" she asks. Tyran suddenly pauses in his tracks. Tyran stares ahead, silently pondering the mysterious words Cal Durman had spoken about his resemblance. Tyran silently ponders, who did he see in my face? My mother? My father. He recalls his mother's distinct facial features and compares them to his own reflection. Tyran silently ponders, curly hair, somewhat large ears, and a straight mouth. I do share some features with my mother. Previously, his mother had smiled warmly at him during their quiet days together in the past. Tyran silently ponders, but is it enough to remind him of her the moment he saw me? He wonders about his mysterious father whom he has never even met. Tyran silently ponders, could it be that the person the house head saw was my father, whose face I don't even know? The guide stops in front of a grand entrance, pulling Tyran out of his deep reverie. We're here, she says. Tyran catches his breath softly. A vast stone hallway lined with massive iron cages stretches endlessly before them. Welcome to the breeding grounds of House Durman, she says. Tyran walks slowly down the wide corridor, marveling at the sheer scale of the underground facility. Wow, it's really spacious, Tyran murmurs. Dim torchlight flickers along the damp stone walls as Tyran walks through the breeding grounds. Inside a spacious stone enclosure, two dark wolves roam a meticulously crafted forest habitat. Tyran peers through the sturdy iron bars at a massive elephant wandering amidst lush green foliage. To think each room has its own habitat. It's impressive, Tyran murmurs, marveling at the design. Pointing toward a black horse with a gray mane grazing peacefully, Tyran inquires about its price. How much is this one? Tyran asks. The guide replies, oh, that one. We raised him with the utmost care. You'll have to pay 4,000 gold coins, she says. Tyran is slightly taken aback. That's twice my entire fortune, he silently ponders. He adds in his mind, I was wrong to think I was rolling in money. Now he finally understands why the young woman remarked earlier that he did not seem like a member of a fallen house. Everything in this place is worth an entire fortune. Tyran resumes walking down the stone corridor while weighing his limited financial options. He silently ponders, should I give up on getting a monster? He continues his internal debate, but I can't exactly cross the desert carrying that chest of money either. Tyran stops abruptly in his tracks when a sudden rustle of dark feathers catches his attention. Looking upward, Tyran observes a majestic dark eagle perched silently inside a massive hanging cage. The eagle stares back with intense yellow eyes, displaying an unusually sharp and intelligent demeanor. Tyran points toward the hanging bird cage to ask about the creature's price. What about this one? Tyran asks. Letter 189T Engin Nam Tram coins, the guide replies. Tyran considers the price while analyzing the vibrant magical energy radiating from the bird. That's cheap, although it would take all my savings, Tyran silently ponders. He continues his internal debate, but considering its mana capacity, this is quite a bargain. Tyran asks aloud, what special abilities does it have? It's highly intelligent and flies exceptionally well, she says. Well, of course it flies well. It's a bird, after all. Tyran stares at it with a highly skeptical gaze. Of course, that is not all. She continues to tell Tyran more about the black eagle, explaining the unique behavioral issues of this stubborn creature. This is one of our more popular species, but it's far too smart for its own good, she explains. She adds, it absolutely refuses to listen to anyone it deems dumber than itself. The black eagle nods in agreement, confirming the guide's words with an incredibly smug expression. Tyran steps closer to the iron bars and addresses the captive bird directly. Can you understand me? Tyran asks. You really must be smart. Even if you're a bit ugly, Tyran notes. The black eagle vigorously shakes its head in protest as Tyran comments on its appearance. Tyran turns back to the guide to discuss the bird's impressive cognitive abilities. It understands everything. Definitely, Tyran says. The young woman replies, yes, I even tried to teach it to read, but it refused to learn. I don't know if it just doesn't want to or if it simply can't. She sighs deeply while explaining the wasted potential of this highly intelligent predator. It's such a waste. It possesses incredible strength for its size, and we've fed it plenty of monster meat, she sighs. She adds, it would be worth so much more if it would just listen. So has anything caught your eye so far? She continues. She adds, even if you wanted to, it would be useless because that bird. Before she can finish her sentence, she is struck dumb as she witnesses the black eagle actively initiating communication with Tyran for the very first time. Tyran watches in surprise as the black eagle points its claw directly at him through the iron bars. It seems to have accepted him for some special reason. Torches flicker along the damp stone walls. The girl recoils in sheer disbelief as she watches the bird. "Wait, why all of a sudden?" she stammers. Tyran raises his finger to point at his own chest while the eagle nods in agreement. "You want me?" Tyran asks, tilting his head. The eagle tilts its head slightly while listening to the calm voice of its potential new master. "I'm not that special of a person." "Is there a reason?" Tyran asks. "If I buy you, would you be willing to learn how to read?" he asks. Tyran leans closer to the iron bars and proposes a deal to the intelligent bird. The eagle nods its head, firmly, before Cal Durman begins to channel a vibrant magical contract. Swirling purple and yellow energy erupts from his hands to finalize the sacred taming bond. It is done. "With this, the two of you are now bonded," Cal Durman says. The majestic eagle flaps its wings and perches firmly on Tyran's bandaged forearm. Cal Durman walks over to inspect the bonded pair while the eagle rests quietly. "It's surprising how well it follows you." "Take good care of it," Cal Durman remarks. "I will," Tyran replies. Cal Durman stops in his tracks and turns back to address his guest once more. "I could just let this pass, but—" he murmurs. He looks down at Tyran with a serious expression, seeking answers to a lingering doubt. "Do you happen to have any connection to Tollies?" Cal Durman asks. Tyran repeats the unfamiliar name aloud, trying to search his memory for any clue. "Tollies?" Tyran asks. Cal Durman raises his hand to dismiss the question and turns away with a sigh. "Never mind. Please forget I asked," Cal Durman says. Tyran watches him leave, silently pondering the significance of the mysterious name. Tyran silently ponders Tollies. He thought of that person when he saw my face. Tyran reaches into his travel pack to retrieve a folded piece of paper. "Then How's head, may I also ask you one thing?" Tyran asks. "Go ahead," Cal Durman replies. He unfolds the parchment and displays a detailed portrait to the curious househead. "Do you happen to know a woman named Vige?" Tyran asks. The sketch reveals a beautiful woman with long, wavy hair and a gentle expression. Cal Durman inspects the drawing carefully, his face showing no signs of recognition. Cal Durman shakes his head and hands the portrait back to his guest. "I don't recognize her at all. If she were such a beauty, there's no way I would have forgotten her," Cal Durman says. "I see." "Understood," Tyran replies. The eagle suddenly takes flight and soars toward the high ceiling of the chamber. "Then I need a second," Tyran says. "What are you doing?" Cal Durman asks. Tyran turns to leave, satisfied with the successful purchase of his new companion. "Since I've paid the price and the deal is done," Tyran says. "It's only natural to check if everything is in order," Tyran says. Warm light bathes the spacious stone hall as a gentle breeze rustles. Tyran lifts his arm to welcome the descending black eagle. He grabs hold of its talons. Immediately after, the bird spreads its wings and soars through the corridor, effortlessly carrying Tyran along as he clings to its talons. Only now does it become clear that this black eagle is by no means small. Its fully extended wingspan is easily the size of a grown man. A bright smile appears on his face as he enjoys the sheer power of his newly acquired magical beast. Warm light fills the luxurious dining hall. Tyran steps inside as the guards bow to welcome him. "I hope you enjoy your meal, master," a servant says. Greeting him warmly, Cal Durman's daughter smiles gently. "Oh, you're here. How was the flight?" she asks. "It was good. It felt like it cleared my head," Tyran replies. Introducing her guest, she gestures toward the group gathered around the long wooden table. "Everyone, this is Tyran Brahms," she says. "He came from the Carmine side," she adds. They are a group of 3 who appear to be mages and warriors. The heavily scarred man frowns deeply and crosses his massive arms with a skeptical look. "Carmine?" the scarred man asks. "Wasn't that near Arabian? Don't associate our guest with those sparrows," she replies, placing a hand on her hip with a sharp glare. Stepping forward to greet Tyran, Dolph Marin offers a firm and confident handshake. "I'm Dolph Marin of a history bloodline," he says. "Nice to meet you," Tyran replies. While sensing the immense pressure exerted on his hand, Tyran maintains a calm expression. Tyran silently wonders, is he showing off his strength? Dolph Marin grins widely and releases his strong grip, thoroughly impressed by Tyran's resilience. "As expected of a guardian, you're sturdy," Dolph Marin says. With a heavy sigh, the young woman with her hair in a neat bun interrupts their display. "I'm not interested in a show of strength, so leave it at that," she says. "Where is that picky eagle?" "I came here because I wanted to see him," Dolph Marin replies. "I told him to fly around nearby for a bit," Tyran says. He must have felt a bit stifled after practicing his writing all morning, he adds. If you'd like, I'll call him over. Come here, Tyran calls out softly. Whistling gently toward the sky, he summons his loyal companion back to the dining hall. The majestic eagle glides through the window and perches gracefully on Tyran's arm. Smiling in amazement, the woman with the bun reaches her hand out toward the bird. Wow, it's true, she says. Come here. The black eagle glares fiercely and snaps its sharp beak, rejecting her friendly gesture. With a look of pure outrage, the bun-haired woman clenches her fists and yells at the black eagle. You damn bird brain, she screams. What on earth do I lack that you're treating me like this? She demands. Tyran gently strokes his companion's feathers while the majestic bird glares back at the angry woman. I could raise you much better than some fallen noble, yet you, she rants. It is clear that the bird has absolutely no liking for this woman, making its attitude painfully obvious. Hold it in, Tyran whispers to his pet. As the feast continues, delicious aromas of roasted meats and savory stews drift across the long table. It's been noisy lately because of the dark elf tribes to the west, Dolph Marin says. The guests cut their steaks and sip their wine under the warm glow of the chandeliers. The Arabian subjugation force? The tanned woman asks. I heard the commander is that skinny Mesa, the scarred man adds. Mocking laughter echoes through the dining hall as the nobles gossip about the distant military commander. I hope she gets assassinated this time, the bald man sneers. It'll be quite the thing if that wench dies, the scarred man chuckles. She's nothing but skin and bones. She'll probably die on her own, the bun-haired woman laughs. Tyran silently sips his drink while the boisterous laughter of the guests fills the spacious room. She's such a hideous sight to behold, the scarred man jeers. I feel sorry for whoever ends up being her unfortunate husband, he adds. Shifting the conversation to house politics, the bald man gestures with his fork toward his plate. Still, those guys have it easy since they have a successor, Dolph Marin notes. We don't know if it'll be Raman, Alma, or Purga, he adds. A name suddenly echoes in the middle of the conversation. I wish Tallies would just make a clear decision already, Dolph Marin sighs. Tyran is slightly startled. Tyran silently ponders Tallies. He freezes in shock upon hearing this name spoken so casually by the unsuspecting guests. That name has constantly surfaced ever since he arrived here, and it is undoubtedly connected to him. Tyran asks what kind of person is Tallies. With a look of mild surprise, Cal Durman's daughter explains the hierarchy of their powerful house. He's the house head's younger brother and the current second-in-command of the Durman family, she says. She adds, essentially, he's the one who is actually leading the house. Previously, Cal Durman had questioned him about his lineage with an extremely grave and intense expression. Do you happen to have any connection to Tallies? Cal Durman had asked. These clues forced Tyran to harbor a suspicion. Tyran silently ponders, my father might be. Tyran silently ponders, this seems to be a bigger deal than I thought. As the evening wind gently rustles the curtains, Tyran stares straight ahead with a serious and determined gaze. That's it for today's video. Thank you for taking the time to watch. If you found this content engaging, don't forget to hit like and subscribe to support Man Hoa today. Most importantly, please support the author by reading the story on official platforms. Goodbye, and see you in the next videos.